Wait for a second as folks come on in. So, Jeff, I'm dead serious, dude. I'm going to be working on writing the song while we play tonight, while we go tonight.
Okay.
I may be in and out of my riffing in terms of the conversation because we've got so many people with us tonight. Hello, everyone. This is another edition of America Heals. This is a conversational experiment that we're doing with this medium because it can be done. And so tonight we've got more people on our screen than we've ever had before. And it's kind of very, very cool for us to be able to do this. Got Jeff right there. At least he's in the middle of my screen. That's Jeff. Jeff, you want to say hi?
Hello, I'm Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I was checking sound. We're good on Periscope.
Clear down on the other side of the screen. We've got Ace on the river. Ace, how's it going, dude?
Hey, guys. This is Ace.
Beaming in from which time zone?
From Georgia.
From Georgia. There we go. East Coast, Central Time Zone. And then we got Tim over here. Tim, say hi.
Hello.
From?
Chicago.
Perspective from Chicago. And then a blast from the past, everybody. Someone who just tuned in tonight in a special format and the ability for us to, I don't know, touch the sky maybe. We're touched by Kurt Cobain. Kurt, would you like to say hi to everybody tonight?
Hey, everyone. It's cool. Thanks for having me. It's pretty awesome.
I love it. I love it. And if you noticed from our title tonight, we're going to get into the plague. There's a couple plagues going on. Now, we obviously know about the plague of coronavirus, and our heart goes out to the potentially, I don't even know the number, but 3,300 people who passed away today and yesterday and probably will tomorrow. So everything we do is shrouded with the shadow of trouble. And I just think that that's, as we're in this holiday season, I'd like to say welcome to everybody and happy holidays. And may we find ways to celebrate those holidays that are meaningful, but may we not forget the pain that's going around. And so if we're in a house that's happy and blessed, that's awesome. But there's a lot who are troubled tonight. And it's with that heavy heart as we went through this election cycle that it felt so double difficult to deal with the preponderance of lies and double truths and disinformation that's been happening in this country, specifically around Trump and Trumpism and the Christian right. And so tonight I want to talk a little bit about from some different perspectives here. Everybody's here, but the main sort of conversation is, you know, we just a few days ago predicted a bit of a war in the Republican Party, and it's underway. Moscow Mitch's little war. He's picked it, and I think one of the things that I will say right off the bat is Mitch doesn't dunk on people he can't dunk on. He always knows what he can do, and he does it, and dude bats about 1,000 if it comes to a batting average because
he doesn't take every swing, but when he swings, he hits.
Yeah. And then that leads us into what's happening in MAGA-land and the Trump world and a reach for theological foundation. We're watching it all over. We're watching all these guys sort of go back to church, whether, you know, pick your influencer. They're all sort of touching base with some old school elements of theology and religion to find their home and their peace. So that's the frame of tonight. I know everybody's got their own kickoff, and so I'll back out for a little bit. And if you see me picking on a guitar, I'll be working on a little bit of a song here with Jeff as we go along. So we have a whole chorus of people. We may pull the song off at the end of the show. So that's how I'm leaving too. So Jeff, do you want to kick it off second?
Yeah, I know specifically we talked about freedom of speech and how speech affected the last election.
Yeah.
You know, one way I think that happened was we had the polarization of the messaging. You know, we had one side telling us COVID's fake and that mail-in ballots are a hoax, and another side saying, you know, avoid long lines and possible COVID exposure and do mail-in ballots. And those two separate messages and people's freedom of expression, I think, created an interesting thing in this last election that we've seen sort of aftershocks of, which is two very different voting pools: the in-person voting pool, which was slightly Trump heavy, and the mail-in pool that was very Biden heavy. So I think that's an example of where free speech and messaging created a situation where somehow a large group of people were surprised that the mail-in vote was so heavily Democratic. So that was my first response to your
Say a little more about the pools. What was the mentality in each of those pools? I think that's important.
Each of what?
Each of those voting pools, like the mentality in that, and anybody can jump in on this. I see Ace nodding like crazy. Do it. Jump in, dude.
I mean, one side was listening to Fox News or Fox News type, and they were being told that mail-in voting is terrible. Don't do it. It's super slow. They try to break the mail while saying the same thing. And then the other side was being told, do mail-in vote, so much easier, trust it. And the thing about mail-in vote, which this is why the Republicans are so afraid of it, is once people start mail-in voting, they will never stop. It's awesome. It's easy. Who doesn't want to just fill out a piece of paper, stick it into their mailbox, and be done with it? You don't have to take off time off of work. It's also really democratic. And then also, if we ever want to help people that work, there you go. You can help them just by mail-in ballots. Then you have no excuse not to vote. And if you can get a mail-in vote ballot system going really well, like some of these other states like Colorado, they have special elections a lot more, so they can vote on big initiatives. This is why they passed cannabis weed faster than anyone else. It's not a trick. It's that they had a whole bunch of special elections super quickly because it's very cheap to run a mail-in, and it's only mail-in. People vote, they get it passed. It's pretty nice. That's why the Republicans are so afraid of it, because once people go there, although I really think that they shouldn't be, because they're a huge section of their people would benefit from it. Older people that are still a lot more Republican, they would get all of their votes. So I don't know why they're so afraid of it, but I would guess they're not going to be afraid of it next time around. They're really gonna realize that they can't slow it down, so might as well join.
Yeah.
One reason they're afraid of it is because they've done the math and they decided the more people vote, the worse it is for Republicans. And so they systematically, like you mentioned, they even tried to slow down the mail intentionally. I was mentioning that before. I'm like, man, these guys who are working in these post offices, some of them are lifers, they're just putting in their time. They're getting close to retirement. Thank God for technology, because it's saving their back and their elbows and their shoulders, and they have sorting machines. They freaking ripped those sorting machines out of the post office and told those employees, those old timers, go back to sorting it by hand. Like just in the months leading up to the election. I mean, and it's because they decided and I think you're right. I think it's a flawed equation, but the equation was the more people vote, the worse it is for Republicans. So it was just suppress the vote in every way they can. Shut down voting stations, make access harder, push back, voter suppression. I mean, the whole gamut.
So tell me, but let's stay on the let's dig down into this thing. You've just all named it, but tell me about what joy is happening in the heart of those people standing in line in Georgia, early voting, or those people who proudly mail-in voted. What's happening there? You know what I mean? Because something's changing, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we just had apparently a bigger opening day than in the previous election, which for a Senate race is really extraordinary. So the enthusiasm is definitely there. I was hoping that we would win the. I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I was hoping that, well, you know what? I'll kick it back to Ace. Screw it. Ace. No. So basically, Ace, he's received a lot of mail. I've received a lot of mail, and it's something that I've tried to sort of get people who are on the other side of the country to try to appreciate that if you look at the mail we're receiving, and in a second, Ace is going to give you some examples of what he's getting, and it's the same stuff I'm getting. It's all pictures of AOC, all pictures of Bernie, a lot of negative campaign ads and that kind of thing. So that's what we're seeing. What we're doing is we're going to go vote. We're voting early, and we're ignoring all that stuff. However, I think you'll hear from Ace. He is a little concerned about the messaging. So he's more concerned about it than I am. I'm more worried about people getting on their feet and walking over there and getting the job done. But why don't you show what you got, Ace?
So I'm definitely really concerned about the Democratic messaging. But here's what I got. This is just today. I'm not even joking. I was talking to Luke as I was checking the mail, and I was like, wow.
I'm gonna put you on solo layout, dude. So show everybody. You're going to be the whole screen.
The first one, okay? Everybody
right
can
up to the
see
screen.
that?
Oh yeah.
So we
can't give Democrats
control. If the Democrats get their wish, the rest of us will be getting coal. And here is the things I'm worried about. Look at their message. What are they telling people? If you elect Democrats, you will lose jobs. It will cost you $235 a month, and every household as much as I don't even know where they're getting that. $65,000 a year, and also increased price of gasoline. Notice both of them. So Loeffler and Purdue. So,
dude, slow down and do that again. What are specifically the threats? Two of them are about energy.
This is the biggest thing. This is their message. So their message is, if you elect Democrats, Georgians lose 142,700 jobs, increase of costs. So this is they're saying, hey, we did a research, quote unquote, $235, increase household. Every household in America
decreased by 65.
That's a ridiculous. I mean, how are
we've got a footnote for it? We can check that footnote.
Yeah, and then increase cost in gasoline. Now let me see. Is there a footnote?
They're they're just sort of like
Here we go.
Heritage Foundation, American Petroleum Institute, Yahoo Finance Op-Ed Institute of Energy Research. Well, I'm sure the Heritage Foundation, American Petroleum Institute are both extremely non-biased organizations.
And then on the back, there's a very cute, it's Santa and his Democratic, this is what he's asking, control of the Senate so we can pass the Green New Deal. By the way, another thing I've always had problems with is this word right here, Green New Deal. It's a dead subject in this state. There's more. And notice the messaging is pretty much all the same. Here's another one. We got a Grinch. Joe Biden's Hollywood.
Everyone can see your address, bro.
Huh?
There you go, right there. You're up. There you go, right there.
You're gonna have to start magic markering your address.
Jeez, yeah.
It's fine. It was wiggly.
Yeah. So that, and then
I don't think you get close enough to see it.
And then we got this right here. So now we're selling the other pictures. If you elect them, socialized healthcare, Green New Deal, defund the police, pack the Supreme Courts.
There's only one party that's packed the Supreme Court, right? It was Trump smashing through another person, right?
Yeah.
Just to your classic point. And today they were saying about the funding, not funding local governments. I was like, yeah, that's right. That is defunding the police. The Republicans are the ones defunding the police.
Hold on, I'll bring you back. There you go.
So there's this one. Again, both of them. So they're attacking both. Same thing. Packing the Supreme Court, raising taxes, defund the police. Again, Green New Deal.
Well, look at the messaging. Ace, look at the messaging on that one, though. That's law and order, too.
Yeah, very law and order. And here's the Democrat one. This is where it gets a little, So it looks like this.
Oh, wow.
So you got that. Then let me fold it. Let's not fail twice. Then this looks like this. Now, I can tell you right off the bat my issues with this. First of all, Stacey Abrams is only going for Warnock. Ossoff is not even in the picture, which I don't even understand. It's paid by the Democratic Party, and yet both of them are not on this ad. And notice one thing that you're missing. There's nothing on here. Why am I voting for you? There's nothing. There's nothing even against the Republicans. You're not even saying, hey, they're a danger to this. There's no message. The message is just vote this guy, vote Warnock, and that's it. No message. Here's the
total assumption. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go. This is the last one. This is another one. My Jewish people came into. At least they're helping both. And again, when you flip it over, there's no message on here. Zero message. It's basically just here's who these guys are.
The word leader is in both prominent positions,
so
third
pushing
word.
that, but there's nothing like, hey, we need to save America or the Republican. No attacking the Republic. Nothing. No message. No, we will bring you jobs. There's nothing. That's not a good thing. Honestly, that's a bad Democratic strategy because the Republicans have a message on every single one of them, and it's going to cost you money. Here's the research. No one's going to read the research. They saw it's going to cost me $230 a month, and that's it. And they're going to pack the courts and healthcare, and that's all we got. The Democrats, zero message.
And so the problem is exactly, I've tried, we've all tried to explain to people who don't live on the East Coast, hey, these progressive pictures and ideals and images of these what you consider as great role models, they turn people off over here. What we need over here is a centrist message, and no one can understand it on the West Coast. You can see it right here, Mr. Clean. There's no message because centrists don't have much to fight for. You're wrong. That's the whole point. You just don't get it. You don't understand the psyche of the East Coast or a red state like Georgia. You have all these Georgia friends. He knows at least 3. You don't understand. Of course, there's a message. You can tell them about, all that needs to get done over the next 4 years. The fact that we need to, address COVID, that we need to make sure that Biden can pass all the progressive things that you want, or all the centrist things that the rest of the party wants. And you're not going to do it with this really poor, weak messaging and basically scaring everyone to death about socialists. If I was going to take Mr. Clean's point, it's because there's no centrist message. Okay, let's throw up a big left-wing message up there. What do you think is going to happen? They're already using AOC's picture, and now you want to give her some slogans out there as well. Why don't we just defund the police over everything? So
not coming to Georgia.
Jeff, do you want this up?
Yeah, and if you
now.
There's even Republicans on Twitter daring AOC to come to Georgia, begging for her to come. They want her to come. They want all those kind of people to come over here. Don't come here. It turns the voters off. We do want a centrist voice, and we need to do exactly what they're doing on those ads that Ace was showing just now. Just obviously the reverse. The danger of handing over the reins to a Republican Senate so they can do the same thing that they did for the last 4 years, which is absolutely nothing.
And we like those people, by the way. I don't want to get. I like AOC. I don't.
Yeah, we like AOC, but we know that it just doesn't.
They don't work in the States, so you got to be mindful of what you do.
Okay, you two guys got to give us some sort of a strike zone then about those folks who are standing in line early, who are there, are most likely voting for the Democrats. I would imagine. Maybe not, but so can you please try to give me the mind of those people and the hope and the excitement that they're standing in line so early for? If it's not deeply progressive stuff, you know what I mean? Give me the top 4, like the Republican stuff said, the top 4. What are the top 4 things those people have in their heads? Is it student loan debt?
You want to go, Ace?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Trump is still on the ballot, even though he's not, and because of the way the Republicans reacted, that's still on the ballot of kind of another punishment of you went against our voters. I mean, think about what they did in the state. They literally tried to dismiss the most amount of Democratic voters from the state. So I think that's one of them. People that voted there's a lot of non-down ballot voting this year. People voted against Trump and for Republican. Those people know that they did that. And if people know that they did that and they hear Trump the whole time saying, this was all a fraud, they know they voted against Donald Trump but for Republicans. And they've been told all this time that it didn't happen. But a huge section of people like close to probably 500,000 people did that because Purdue got 500,000 extra votes, and then Donald Trump. He lost by a huge margin. There's a lot of people that know they did that. The other thing is racial. The city has a lot of African American, Latino. That's still on the thing. Healthcare is actually one, I think, the biggest. I think it's number 2 because people here like Obamacare and they are on Obamacare. Which
do they want more?
They want more, and we're the only state that we're one of the last few that doesn't have expanded Medicare, which hurts us a lot more, and it doesn't have expanded Obamacare, which hurts us as well. And a lot of people during the pandemic are losing their jobs, and they can't get expanded Medicare, which means they have no insurance. So I think that's on the ballot the most past just getting Trump, because both of the leaders are against Obamacare.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then on top of all that, just simply there's so much more enthusiasm now because we won that presidential election. It proved to Democrats that what was possible. Yeah. And it's like the old saying goes, it's always seems impossible until it's done. And now that people can see, look, what we can achieve here, we can actually win when we're motivated, when we go out there and do that. And so I think that's really pumping people up. Like they feel like, I mean, like I just said, our opening day had a bigger turnout than the opening day for the presidential election. And it's just for a runoff in the holidays, guys. That tells you that people are pumped. They're like, oh man, wow, look, we can actually win one of these things. And the other thing is that, like Ace was saying, there are many Republicans who voted for Joe Biden, and for good reason. They're dissatisfied with the way Donald Trump handled everything. I mean, it's not just COVID; it's other things, that our standing in the world, our approach to a lot of different things. And so, if you reward the Senate with bad behavior and say, it's okay, you propped up a guy who's done a rotten job, let's have more of that. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's go ahead and give someone else a shot at the calm, because these clowns don't know what they're doing. They align themselves with a guy who's ruined everything. So, and
that's been his MO. Jeff, this messaging thing, I saw you nodding when I could see you when we had Ace up on there. There was different messaging on every one of those ads. Like, it's so scattered. And the one to the Jewish community was the one to me that was one of the more interesting ones, because it's accentuating simply that they're leaders. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it does say there's that darker blue block says something about stand up against the
only attack, right?
There's something in that ad. That block there says don't be misled by racist attacks on Reverend Warnock, blah, blah, blah. I think it has a very pro-Jewish message. It doesn't have a broad platform message, but that one is definitely addressing the Jewish side of the issue. So I would say out of the group, that one probably had the strongest messaging as far as saying something. I guess it's a challenge. I mean, on one hand, we're saying we may be courting disenfranchised Republicans, so we don't want to do the Green New Deal. But on the other hand, we're saying that their ads don't have any messaging. So, I mean, I just don't know. I guess I don't know where the sweet spot is. Donald Trump's been very successful with extremely polarized messaging. So,
okay, that one right there. Don't let dishonest Republicans divide the Jewish community. That one right there seems to be. I'm going to read that and say that there's a hint of don't forget Charlottesville.
Yeah, that's and Stephen Miller.
Yeah. Which is
works there, never got fired.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like guilt by association. I mean, a lot of these guys, particularly Loeffler, she has handcuffed herself to Donald Trump. She has advisors that even said, "Hey, I think you might need to move to the center a little bit for this next round. You didn't do so hot." Actually, Reverend Warnock actually beat her. But she decided, no, I'm just going to double down. And she went all in She campaigned with the nutcase up north, whose name escapes me. Kel will know who's a QAnon person, and she just decided, now forget it. I'm just going to go all in Trump. So, like I said, guilt by association. Do you really want to support people or have a Senate that is too afraid to speak
Marjorie
up
Green.
and say, hey, this guy's trying to steal an election. You guys are still United States senators. You've all sworn an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. Many of you, actually, your names were actually on those ballots that he's suggesting should be thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
Does any of you want to grow a spine and stand up for what's right? After all, you guys are supposed to be the constitutionalists. You guys are supposed to be ones that, you know, cry when people kneel in front of the American flag and all this other kind of stuff. Where's that now? Come on, stand up. You know, show some backbone. Who's the snowflake when you're not brave enough to call right and wrong? You know,
Kel says Marjorie Green.
Tim, I see you nodding over there.
Correct, thanks.
I'm thinking about.
Well, I mean, before that, I just want to.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it hasn't she even refused to admit that Biden won the election? Still, isn't she one of the holdouts who every time they ask her, she's like, "Oh no, it's still in process. There's still."
Not only
I'm focusing on this race. This race.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's twice.
She said the 6th of January is miles away. That's what she said.
Yes, thank you. Exactly.
As of today,
talk about all in. It's like you are denying reality for the sake of trying to hold on to your power and the sake of aligning yourself with Trump in the most fanatic way. That's fanaticism. That's straight up fanaticism. I won't admit that Biden won the election. I just hope that I hold on to my power and Republicans maintain their power in Senate. Thank you.
As of today, I think she's the third person that has said that Congress should basically whatever they're planning on, this new thing that they're planning on doing, where they vote against the. Whatever this next,
try to throw out the votes for
from the floor.
Thing. They're not going to do it. Vote. He's the third one that says that they should do that. So I'm assuming I saw that Tommy Tuberville was talking about it. He's gonna do protest or do something. Who knows?
Well, that's low hanging fruit. That's low hanging fruit in the cult of stupid.
Yeah,
and the cult of stupid doesn't just include Donald Trump, but it does include this Christian fanaticism piece. And it's not just Christian fanaticism, but it's highly Christian fanaticism. And I want to turn us into that place because Kurt, you were able to so eloquently from the grave, I might add, bring us to this place where Loeffler winced. Right? She's decided to try to walk into the tepid waters of centrism. And she immediately reverts back to as hard a fanatic as you can be. And that's because of the intolerance on the right, of the pure intolerance on the right. And I wanted to talk a little bit tonight from a theological perspective, and then this is going to kick us into more political talk. So I don't want to stay here very long. But I want to talk about something that happened to me. It's a story. And it was back in the jail when we were training to be pastors. Tim.
Back when we were in jail.
We were in the jail.
Back when we were in jail together, working as chaplains. You got to put the pause in there for the effect.
One of the more scandalous things we had to learn was that you walked into a room and anybody in jail wanted a Bible. They want a Bible for a variety of reasons. But we had a room full of the Gideon's Bibles that were like taken out of old hotels, like a room full of them, right? And the first thing you learn as a chaplain is you walk into the room, and if somebody earns a Bible, they had to go to like 10 Bible studies to get it. But if they get one, you had to walk in and you had to pop the binding off the Bible because it was the hardcover, and it could very easily be a very serious weapon. And so for some of my friends who were in our training, who were from a more fundamentalist place, they were like, dude, you can't rip the Bible. And it was a very quick question of, well, do you want to give them a Bible or do you not? And so a Bible without a cover works just as well. But it got to a fundamental piece of the holiness of the book. And I want to lift up a line for people to understand about the nuance of American Christian theology. And we refer to mainline or liberal Christianity, and we refer to fundamentalist Christianity, and it usually revolves around this. Is my faith greater than the book? Does the book inform my faith? Does the book help my faith along? Or is my faith underneath the book and I can't ask questions of it, and somehow it's a magic book that needs to be worshipped itself? Back to the book cover moment where people were shocked when they would see the book cover get ripped off. Everybody who was a volunteer who saw that, they were like, oh, and they had to go through their own moment of, well, do you want to give them what's in the book, or do you worship this fucking thing? So that's where I come from. I'm a person who's free from that tragedy of believing that it was somehow fallen from the sky. Not one of the authors who wrote anything in the book, in the Bible, ever sat down to write the Bible. They were writing a letter or a poem or a song or a myth. And then somewhere along the line, they shoved it all together and said, here's your book. And then people treat it. But because of the low scholarship in this country, because of the lack of nuance in this country about things that take some reading and energy, and the rise of easy atheism and nihilism, which I'm not going to get into tonight, but people just discount all theology as sort of one bland thing. And it's not. And so I think that it's important for us to go back to the Loeffler move. Is it Loeffler or Loeffler?
I think it's Loeffler.
It's Loeffler.
Going back to her move of tiptoeing out into the edge of political awareness, she should be a centrist right now. She'd win the damn thing. But because she can't, because you have this bulging fundamentalism happening in American Christianity right now on the right, where they can't tolerate any questions. It goes into Trump. It goes into their churches. Their churches can't not have church. My church hasn't closed, but we haven't worshiped in our sanctuary since March. We've met online. We've adapted. We've developed 10 new small groups over the course of this year. I've grown my congregation by members this year because I'm not scared to change. Right? Because it's time to fucking deal with the fact that this may not be the last pandemic. And I'm a leader of this little group of people, and we need to think about some shit. The fact that these people can hitch their wagon to some dead God, some dead theology, some dead old shit that they have to conjure up by making sure Israel gets nukes and fucking, all the bullshit to get Armageddon here.
Yeah.
You guys know where I'm going with this. But this whole thing revolves around Trumpism and fundamentalism, and I call it fanaticism because they're simply fanatics. Can't reason with them. They're all in.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I'm glad you brought it back to Trumpism too, because I think that there's a really strong parallel between what we're talking about with religion and Christianity, and then also just what's happening in Georgia with politics. And it's this really unfortunate dumbing down of information, and it's really trying to find just really easy to grab common denominators that don't require any real research or discussion or discernment or understanding. And it's a disservice because people, I think, Georgia, like you guys have been talking about, is a perfect example that people are hungry to have someone who's ready to talk about the real issues, who is ready to pull people towards the middle so that they can start building a future together to move forward and not just continue to push on the same hot topic, the hot button topics. And that's what all of those political ads are doing. I mean, they don't have any real messaging because it's just like, oh, we're just going to touch on these hot topic buttons here, and then we're going to have your vote, because they aren't even trying to win anybody at this point. They're just trying to remind people which side they're on. And the same thing is happening in Christianity. People are glomming onto this really oversimplified, dumbed down versions of the gospel and of Christianity that require no self-sacrifice. They require no accountability. They require no transformation, no commitment, no vulnerability. It's just about, you're on the winning team or you're not on the winning team in both realms. And these are the reasons why. And I'm going to tell you in 4, bullet points so that you know which group you belong to.
Abortion, gun control.
Totally.
You can all fill out the rest.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think in this case, the iconography of Trumpism is the American flag standing for the national anthem, just like your Bible cover in the prison. They've tried to make these things sacred, and when you try and have a conversation like in America, there's nothing more valuable than the freedom of speech. We actually let you burn the flag if you feel you need to express yourself, and conservatives' heads just explode.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, freedom of speech is more important than this piece of fabric. Don't get me wrong, I love the flag. I'm an Eagle Scout. I own one. I take good care of it.
Yep.
We all love the flag, but the point is the flag isn't more important than anything. I mean, the flag isn't more important than a single person missing a meal. I mean, if I could burn a flag every day and give another hungry kid a meal, I would. I mean, come on, we got to be reasonable. It's valuable, but not over people's lives and people's suffering and people's even personal messages about the deaths in their community. Those are things that are important in America. So I think your Bible cover, yeah, it's the same thing. People are trying to, sanctify things that were never meant to be sanctified like that.
Right. I think it gets back to something we discussed last week. To me, that's the beauty of being in the center. You're not beholden to any particular dogma. You can take the good ideas from either side, and you can reject the bad ideas. The problem with following Donald Trump right now is you're beholden to every ridiculous thing that he does. So if he decides to say something stupid or look up into the sun, you either got to pretend that you didn't, or pretend that the person who referenced it was part of fake news. You have to go down all these like escape holes to try to get away from the fact that, hey, this doesn't make sense. This is daft or whatever. So it is like you said, you got this guy, someone ripping off the covers of the Bible, but what's more important? Homage to Donald Trump or the Constitution, the country. What are your values? What are our values? What are American values? What is most important to the United States of America? Are you really going to handcuff yourself to an individual? What happens when he dies? How are you going to replace him? Do you really want a king? Do you really want to have some high priest telling everybody what to do all the time? And then every time he does something ridiculous, or the emperor comes out with no clothes on, you've all got to, what have you got to do? You got to pretend that he's wearing clothes. That's ridiculous. He doesn't have any clothes on. Just call it for what it is.
Henry, I've had people leave my churches before when they found out that we didn't have what in some systems is called a magistrate, where theological decisions were made. In our church, we vote on issues. We voted to allow gay clergy and accept and support and be celebrating gay marriage early on in that process. It took us a long time to fight that out, but we voted and voted and voted, believing that the process of prayerfully thinking about these things, about how we're going to live this walk that we say we believe in this world, we went through a whole process, and we believed that was God working through us in this world. But the idea of theodicy, of how God comes into the world, these people sort of just believe that God is just going to simply some theistic, unknown, dead thing is going to come down and just swoop in and give us a king. And that's sort of where, as a pastor and as a theologian, I deal with very much with a living God. That's why it's a constant discernment. It's a constant walking with people, listening to their stories, telling them where it sounds like the light is at, watching them transform. It's a fucking long process, man. It's hard. And yet that's what these folks have no time for the hard stuff.
No, I think they want to be spoon-fed. They want an easy answer. Yes. They just want someone to lead the way. But, like Ace and I have talked about this before, and so if you and I, Marty, if a Democrat does something wrong, if a Democrat is caught for insider trading, if a Democrat is caught, cheating and with a minor, whatever,
yep,
throw them in jail. I don't care. They did something wrong. But if you're on the other side and you hear that someone did something wrong, and your first inclination is to say, "Damn, who ratted them out?"
Exactly.
This is exactly what happened during, it happened several times during the Trump presidency. Instead of being upset about someone did this bad thing, they were like, "Man, Who leaked that? Who leaked that out?
Exactly.
Oh my God! What about the bad thing?
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Right from the beginning, when they first heard about the concerns, they had the very first meeting with Trump's, first form of his administration, and they started talking about the concerns about Russia, and fucking everybody that was connected to that. And the first thing that Trump and his people did was say, how can we spin this? I mean, right in front of Comey, they said, how can we spin this? I mean, just shameless, naked corruption, ready to fucking say, it doesn't matter what we did. It just matters that we're here. How can we spin this?
Ace.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Ace.
Ace.
I mean, this is kind of what they've been. Unfortunately, the Republicans have taken away. They're putting so much branding on things that they don't actually do. They brand the American flag, the patriotism. They don't care about patriotism. We have now seen Donald Trump is literally holding up funding to give military members a raise because he wants them to get rid of a rule so he can mess around with Facebook, Twitter and Facebook. Like, they don't care about patriotism. They always talk about Constitution and everything about the Constitution, but they don't care about it either.
There are people right now, probably on Scope right now, Ace, who are calling themselves patriots, who literally within the last 24 hours, if they're not doing it right now, are talking about putting Democrats in concentration camps.
It's a different type of patriotism. And I was actually talking to Luke today about this, and I don't know the stats. You know me, I always love numbers. I'll have to look this up. But my suspicion is in some of these dictator countries, there's a huge number of people that like the dictator. They are pro-dictator. That's how it keeps on working. It eventually falls off a hill, but it's not like, I'm assuming Saddam Hussein had an actual good popularity, and they last forever. So let's not forget that there's a section of Republicans that are fully okay with Donald Trump being a dictator because it's 100% beneficial to them, because if he is their dictator, they get 100%. They don't have to talk to Democrats or even negotiate. He's the dictator. Whatever he says goes. Think about what they always say. I like Donald Trump. He's always on my side. Whatever he wants, he gets no matter what. They don't care that he breaks the law as long as he's getting them what they want. So let's not forget. Let's not put this dictatorship out of. Last point.
No. I think you should stop and slow down for a second, because let's go into that. Say a little more about that point of where everybody where there's 5 of us on here and feel like we have to hurry. Don't hurry. Take your time and talk for a second about the psyche of how can that fucking possibly be sexy, Ace?
Well, I come from Ukraine. My parents were born in the Soviet Union, and communism was popular. Even though my parents stood in line for bread, and they stood 15 years in line to have the ability to buy a car. And the only way they got into that line is they paid someone off, paid them a ransom to get into the line. And they didn't like communism, but there were a lot of people that like communism because communism allows everybody to kind of relax a little bit. And also people take advantage of communism way easier. The corruption becomes huge. So everybody that's corrupt, it becomes its own system, own form of government. But people like communism. And people don't mind dictators either. They don't have a 99% unlikability, or else so they would overthrow the government.
See, and I think Americans generally, when we hear words like communism, especially those on the right, they assume that everyone hates it. And the reason we need to stand opposed to it is that everyone hates it. And I'm not proposing it. I'm just saying what you just said is not an American understanding of that.
It's got a likability to it. People like it.
Henry,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to piggyback on something Ace said. Now, Ace actually has a cousin who's one of my best friends as well. So, I'm very close to those two guys. And let me tell you something else, kind of the flip side of what Ace is talking about. So many people like the dictatorship. For 5 seconds, let me tell you what it was like for people who weren't part of the dictatorship. Ace's parents, his cousin's parents, if they were Jewish, when they went to class, when their children went to school, they were called by their last name. But all the other kids, the non-Jewish kids, they were called by their first name. So imagine there's Sally and Timmy and Leibniz or whatever, like they were ostracized, and in their passport, where it said nationality, instead of saying Russian, instead of saying Ukrainian, it said Jewish. So why am I bringing this up? Because one thing that people enjoy, the people who enjoy the dictatorship, they love the feeling of being special. And the way to feel, there's only one way to make someone feel special, and that's to make someone else not be special.
Totally.
So as long as I'm not the one getting the heat, I love it. I love Trump. I love communism. I love this whole situation because I'm fine. I'm white. I'm male. I got blue eyes. I'm Christian. I'll be okay. Now, if I asked one of these Trumpsters, hey, okay, sounds great. Now, how about if Obama was the dictator? Would you be cool with that one? Oh, hell no, that would be terrible. I wouldn't. Yeah, it's great when you're the Russian guy, but when you're the Jewish guy and in school you're called by your last name if you're Jewish, it's not nice. So surprise, surprise, a lot of those people, when the wall fell down and when communism collapsed, they left because they never felt part of that place, because they were getting it stuck to the whole freaking time. And what do you see right now? You go to a Trump rally and you hear the same buzzwords. The commies, the liberals, the brown people, they only send their worst, rapists, murderers. That's the whole game. The whole game is you have to have a them and an us. That's the only way that stuff works. That's why you got to remember what do you care about? What is most important? What are your ideals? What does it mean to be a Christian? Is it the piece of paper, the book, or is it the damn message? Mm-hmm. And the damn message in this country is that all men are created equal. Everyone has a right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's not supposed to partition this group from that group. That's why everyone should just reject Trump. Everyone should reject that kind of dogma. It keeps you boxed in. It means you can't think freely. It means you have to make excuses for when people do stupid crap. And what kind of excuses might you find? Q-Anon, laptops, emails, nonsense. And so that's why I would say you got to stay grounded. You got if you're a Christian pastor, you got to stick to the word. Don't worry about the paper. Worry about the word, the message. That's what's most important. We talk about messaging all the time because the messaging is so goddamn important.
Yep, exactly.
That's what's most important. And when you don't worry about these things, when you invest everything in a book, in the physical crap, in a person, then all this other ends up getting let go. And then people start getting left out. Could be a Jewish person, could be an African-American person, could be a Native American person.
It has to have that. It's the engine that it runs on, is that hatred engine, that marginalization engine.
It has to do it. That's it's a form of blame. So you can keep on going. When something isn't working, you point as the government, go, it's them. That's the problem. It's not me. It's not us here. And then when you run out of people, you pick other countries. Mm-hmm. So, when you're in South Korea, you pick other countries because you've pretty much cleaned everything up here. Then you go, oh, it's them. It's the West and these guys. It's the only way.
And the left is communists. Joe Biden's going to make us communists somehow. But Donald Trump's trying to steal an election. Russia has elections. So it doesn't make any sense. It's like, we don't want to be communists, but we want Donald Trump to do what he has to do to get the election in his favor, which is absolutely either a communist dictator or a non-communist dictator. I mean, I think communism kind of got intersected by, obviously, dictator type mentalities too. Like both things happen at once. But
Jeff, Can you talk about because you live in a different theocratic state?
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of this grouping and stuff like that? And first simple question: can you parse the Loeffler move to the center and back to the right from where you're coming from? Because you've seen this 1,000 times in a different state. But I'd like to hear your take on it as a person from Kansas, because you're in a theocratic red bastion that's a little different than Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really talk specifically on Loeffler's motion, but what I can say is, like, for example, when Brownback was running for governor, he took a picture at I believe it was a 4th of July parade in this red, white, and blue Jeep with, I believe, a red, white, and blue painted machine gun and something else, like mounted machine gun on a car that was in a parade. And of course, some people reacted and said that seems to be a very militaristic view. I think it had Kobach posters down the side. It seemed kind of militaristic, blah, blah, blah. And his response was deal with it, and he was very proud of himself for his semi-militaristic. As far as I know, he has absolutely no military.
Well, the guns so part of the Kansan and Coloradan, because I'm in Colorado, so I've got a lot of that too in the right out here. It's all about the personal sovereignty of my individualism, and therefore my gun is literally an appendage almost from God,
right,
in my maintaining my sovereignty as a person. And I don't know. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit too, between Georgia and Kansas, because those are two different red states. But do you guys hear the right wing gents when you guys from Georgia, do you hear anything about that sovereignty piece where you're at, or is that just more of a?
I mean, guns are huge. I mean, it's a big deal in guns. Although this time around, slowly guns have been taken off the message a little bit. I don't know actually why, because I haven't seen any anti-gun ads at all. And that usually is the go-to. It's anti-gun and abortion. Anti-gun and abortion. I've seen zero of that. And my suspicion is I don't think they don't need it anymore, because they already got the Supreme Court justices, and it might not be polling as well as scaring people into something they don't know, which is socialism and things like that. It's much easier. And on guns and abortion, I mean, if you think about it, the Republicans don't want to fix or do what they want to do, because once they get it done, they don't have another message to run on. They always want to, it's like a string to them. They go, oh, we're getting a little closer. We're going to ban abortion. They could have put up they could have done something to abortion when they had the Senate and they had the House and they had Trump. Basically, they didn't do anything to abortion. They didn't do anything to the guns either. They don't want to do it. It takes away from the messaging. It's a much easier thing to pull when you go, they're about to take your guns away, or they're going to do something with abortion. They don't want to do it because it's a messaging point to them that is very strong. That's like you said, it's a part of your core. Guns and abortion. That's a winner for them.
Oh, Kobach, for example,
it's the passion.
As far as I know, Kobach's always been a city kid, and he has this ad where he's wearing a red flannel shirt. He's got jeans on. His wife's got a muumuu with boots, and his kids are dressed with cowboy boots, and of course everything looks brand freaking new because it is. And they're walking down like a pasture in front of a gate, and everyone's just like, "Who is this guy?" Like, no one's ever attributed him with any kind of rural nature. And he put he put out an Easter message while he was campaigning that literally had God has risen, the cross, the sunrise, all that stuff, and in the corner, Kobach for governor, which I think you would agree is well beyond what an actual Christian should be doing.
Well, and it's so crazy because the law says that at the pulpit I cannot tell my congregation to vote accordingly. My people talk about local issues a lot, and we talk a lot about politics in the church, but we cannot advocate. That's the line. You cannot advocate for a candidate. You can advocate even for political issues, but you can't advocate for a candidate. But Jeff, that's literally the candidate advocating backwards, saying, well, I'm the Christian, so vote for me. And
Right.
he can pull that off because that's a total upside down use of that law. Just so you know how that plays out to those of us who have to deal with that.
And what does that say to everybody else?
I think it might have been on Facebook.
That's a little bit.
Say that again, Ace. I missed you.
I mean, what is it when you do that message? I mean, what does it say to someone that's not Christian? I mean, I would only assume that it's either just by polling and they know that they're not really going to lose much, or it's the same thing where with the whole Trump thing. It's, hey, if you're with us, you're with us, and we're going to take it. We don't care about anyone else. It's us, and that's it. This whole dictator strong party. We're going to do what it takes. We're going to break rules. We'll break the Constitution if we have to get you what you want. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They don't care about the votes. They're going to get you what you want.
Holy, look at that.
Yep. Kobach for Senate. Easter Sunday, he has risen.
Jesus Christ.
Look at that.
It looks like a
Look
Sunday
at that.
It looks like a church flyer. Yeah.
That's on the internet. Like I replied to him. I said, Easter's brought to you by Kobach for Senate. What the hell is this?
Oh man.
Isn't that bad?
outrageous.
That's
terrible.
horrible.
It is
It's terrible.
So that's when he ran for Senate. That was 2 years before I guess he ran for. No, that was just now, right? He just ran for Senate.
Did he
So
win?
it was during last year when he was running for Senate.
Did he win?
No.
No.
Thank God. But I just want to highlight two comments on the side that kind of relate back to the messaging. One is Mo6977. He says they don't know the difference between communist, fascist, socialist, and something Redemption 2 said. Kyle, red herring issues as long as they can use them. So that's what it is. Is you have red herring issues to distract, and then how fantastic. Do any of these people really know what a communist or a fascist or a socialist is? They don't. But it's just a name to just sling mud and just like those disgusting communist fascists. Joe Biden is a horrible communist fascist.
And Biden's not even vaguely socialist in my mind.
Well, right. I've told you guys before. Half the day, I'm arguing with Bernie guys telling me that the problem with Joe Biden is he's a damn conservative, and then the other half of the day, I'm talking to Trumpsters and like he's a goddamn commie. Mm-hmm. But that's why these words and all this dogma is terrible. Well, the most important thing of all is just to loop it back to the start of this segment. What Marty was saying, it's the message. You got your values. What are your values? Stick by your values, and try to block out this horrible noise, this distraction, and the mudslinging. Don't be beholden to, don't become a zealot. Don't get beholden to, but I'm a lefty. I got to do the lefty thing. Hey, listen, I one of these days I'll give you a tour that some of the books up there. You wouldn't believe the socialism stuff I read and everything else. I'm all about it. But you have, having the liberty and the freedom to pick and choose what works and what doesn't work. That's true freedom. And at the same time, you can always be honest to yourself. You can say, well, that was wrong and we shouldn't do that. That person did something wrong. They shouldn't be allowed to be in business anymore. But when you're handcuffed to something, then it gets very, very difficult.
Okay. So I'm gonna pause that there because we're about to go into the future now. I think, Tim, did you have anything you wanted to clean? You were nodding, and I just wanted to clean up some things because we're about to go into a segment. Yeah. Before you do it, we're going to go into a segment to the viewers, and I really appreciate what Nate says here. I can't find it honestly. Lots of major news networks can't even put a show like this together. Well, guys, and this is most of us who are on this channel here, but those of you who are part of this chat, you're absolutely right. And this is how America is going to heal. And this is our show. And in a couple of minutes, Tim is going to say his piece and a couple others. We're going to move into the halfway point where you get to ask your questions. So gather up your questions for the panel and we'll flip that over. But Tim, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother, but I know I can. So there you go.
Not at all. I just wanted to go back to the question of like, what's the point of having a president? Do we want a king? In terms of Loeffler, what's the point of having constituents if you're not going to fight for their health and safety and want them to have health care? And my other comment about guns and the sovereignty of guns is guns are the only American symbol of freedom that can kill the person who doesn't agree with you. So I think that always lends itself to people's view of the sovereignty of guns.
Tragically, also, of course, the bearer, but they don't like to talk about that. Just real quick before we leave this iconography, you might check out Kobach here running for governor.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. And so when people reacted to this machine gun mounted Jeep, when people reacted negatively, he said, deal with it. You can see there's a machine gun on there. I mean, I understand it's not loaded or whatever. But
you know what else you can see? You can also see that he wears one of those phone things on his belt.
phone holster.
I love the Nazis.
Supposedly he's a huge dork. In real life, he's supposed to be
you can see. Look at him. Who stands in the Jeep like that? I mean, that is such a dorky way to be in the Jeep.
He thinks he's General Patton or something.
He should be sitting in the chair, just like waving to people.
Behind the gun. Well, okay, let's talk about.
Let the gun do the talking, and he just rides along. What's he doing?
Why is he not at the gun?
That's right.
That would be too far, right? Then
no, it's because the guy that I've been advanced for political campaigns, right? So the candidate, what vehicle the candidate's going to be in, all right?
Right.
Somebody along the way told him, "Hey, get in Daryl's Jeep. You'll know it when you see it."
Right.
Yeah. Can I just point out one thing too? Look at the people in front of the Jeep. It literally looks like they're running away from the gun. I mean, like everybody.
No, they just got something to eat, dude.
They are like running from that gun. He's like, come back. I want to talk to you about my message.
This lady's double taking it. Do you see this over here?
The cat in the moccasins is running away. He's got a Kobach shirt on. She's got a Kobach shirt too. She's a campaign worker.
Oh no, yeah, they're throwing stuff out. They're throwing bullets.
That's all. I think everyone in this picture, but the dude by the street sign, I think they all work for Kobach.
Oh my god,
dude.
Yeah. Deal with it, he said. So the night he lost that election, I went onto that tweet and I said, we dealt with it. That tweet no longer exists.
Oh my God. This is too much fun, you guys. Being able to do this to Republicans, I just found a new hobby, okay? We can Zoom them. Jeff, you've got work to do, man. We need photos because
I just know Kobach well because he's the voter ID guy. He's the guy
golf with him every 2 weeks, right?
Suppression in Kansas. So I'm fixated on him.
You golf with him all the time, right?
Dude, that guy is my best friend, and he was like the chair of the 2017 voter fraud commission that Trump had. So this Jeep guy with the machine gun, helped Donald Trump fight all the fraud in the 2017 election. But apparently, in the 3 years after, Trump let it go to shit, and there was all this fraud. I mean, this guy with the machine gun clearly fixed it all.
He held it back. He staved off.
He looks like a very stable government servant right there.
Can you pin it on this guy? I mean, look at this guy. This guy's got it figured out.
Oh my God.
When Governor Kemp was running, he had a famous ad in which he was holding a shotgun at some guy. He had a guy that was trying to date his daughter. At least that was the narrative. And so there he was with a shotgun pointed at this young man in Governor Kemp's home. And that was one of his main centerpieces. I don't know what he was trying to say. Vote for me as governor, and you can shoot guys that come and date your daughter. I don't know what.
Does anyone remember Roy Moore when he was running? When Roy Moore was running, he's like, "Me, I'm for guns." He pulls a gun out on stage.
I do.
Like Elmer fucking Fudd. He pulls a gun out on stage.
And he was riding a horse, right?
45 or some shit too. It was like as big as his head when he pulled it out.
Oh my God.
Anyway, he rode a horse to the pole, but he obviously had never been on a horse in his life.
He had some saddle sores the next day. You could tell he was struggling.
We got an injury.
By the time he got to the pole.
Injury time out for Jeff.
See you in a second.
Somebody say I'm totally.
Okay, so let's turn this around. Let's take a second. And Jeff is dealing with kids, and that's awesome because it's a real live living thing. To the crew on the comments, this is our chance to kind of take a halfway point. Throw some of your questions at us. Aim them at whoever you want to. And then we'll get back. We've got a little bit more to do after that, but we just want to stop and give you guys the chance to bring up whatever's in your hearts and your thoughts and aim them. You got Kurt Cobain here in the audience tonight, in the panel tonight. So here we go. Mr. Clean. Is the problem progressive messaging or GOP spin on progressive messaging? I'm going to throw that to Kurt Cobain real quick.
Like, man, like progressive messaging, man, it's like awesome. Like, I don't know, like, never mind.
Nice. I like you pulled in the name of never mind and everything.
I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to say it's progressive messaging, in that progressives cannot do the same thing that Republicans do. And Ace, your ads earlier gave us such a good example of those 4 points. And on the first one you showed us, they were all they were all economic or energy, right? They were going to cost you money, and take your energy. So just think about it in those terms.
Yeah,
they're scaring you in terms of money.
This is the messaging. They have a much better messaging of spin against Democrats. What I should be getting is I should be getting one of these from Democrats that says, hey, if you vote for us, you will get $212 a month extra because we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to save you this.
Oh, thank you. Right.
We're going to create 160,000 jobs in Georgia. We're gonna keep gasoline down. But I didn't get that from Democrats at all. I got nothing. I got a picture of Stacey Abrams that says absolutely nothing, and I got this message piece, which the Democratic Party paid for this, and they didn't even put Ossoff on it. So I don't know
part of that, I'm gonna speak to that a little bit in saying that the Republicans have been using micro-targeting. So they're looking at that ad they sent you, and they know that somewhere in your region, I don't know how they break your part of the country down, but they're like, people here care about these 4 things, and every household should hit 2 of those. The fact that the Democrats aren't hitting that means they don't know their people.
I mean, I live in a Democratic county. It's middle class, and it's your normal city. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of mixtures. There's a lot of minorities. All kinds of. It's not where it's just white. That's more up north. And what they're doing is they're just basically scaring everybody during a pandemic, because they're saying, you don't know what's going up. Do you really want to give them a chance? They're going to do all this stuff. And if someone looks at this and goes, oh my God, what if they really do cost us $200 extra a month? I can't afford that.
It hits you at home. You're sitting there next to your bills when you open that up.
Exactly. And they're doing that while the Democrats are giving me nothing. They're not sending me anything. Which is something, we talked about in the last scope. My grand idea was they should have pushed for checks, big checks. And Biden should have come out and said, hey, on my first day, I want a bill with a huge stimulus package, $2,000 to every family. Boom. And then the Democrats, Stacey Abrams, would be sending me something that says, vote for these 2 guys. They're going to pass America's HEALS Act that includes $2,000, and that's a message you could sell. That's
exactly.
something.
Totally.
So, and that's the GOP spin on progressive messaging, is because they don't do it, they get to define it for you. Yeah.
I mean, the Green New Deal is a death sentence in Georgia.
All right, I'm going to bounce to the next one.
It means.
Who else has a comment on that? I'm bouncing to the next one.
I would just say that I think it is GOP spin on progressive messaging, because at its core, progressive messaging is trying to find an alternative to the current message of bullshit, coming out of the Trump regime. I mean, the Green New Deal is fucking brilliant, but you have to sit down and read it and think about it, like I said before. But in order to try and compete with Republicans, we're dumbing the shit down out of our messages. And again, we're just like not even sending content. We send a picture of someone who we've lifted up as a symbol of the voter movement, which is wonderful. But we need to be talking about the issues. Like, what the fuck has Trump done for you? Did Trump support giving you money? Did Trump support helping you during this time? Did Trump really support small businesses making it during the pandemic? Hell no. He only cares about big money and money coming to him. That's all he cares about. I don't know how anybody who is middle class or poor in Georgia can think that Trump is a good idea after how hard it is right now for everybody. What does he have to sell? What can he point at and say, this is what I've done for you? Except if you're racist, give you a sense of belonging, at a national level.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So I got.
No. I'm talking. Jeff, you got something?
Okay. I got a screen for you to share. My best boy again, Roy Moore.
All right, hold on. We're working through a couple more of these questions. Hold on.
It is not a huge gun. Someone said the gun made his head look small. No. This is a very small gun.
I want to answer this and say, Marty, is everyone at your church aware of your political beliefs? They may not know all of my political beliefs, but I preach from the hip, and they know that I err on the side of mercy, grace, forgiveness, and inclusion. And I use the word fuck. And so figure all that out. I do my best to be a leader in this church. I'm a redeveloper pastor, which means part of my jobs is to walk into an old system that is not doing very well and find the sacred cows and deal with that bullshit. So I'm not just sitting in, sort of a nice little thing, not doing much. I'm there to break walls. So part of where I'm at in terms of dealing with the world is that I see as a mainline leader, we are a very weak church. We're dying because most people don't know that any Christians are progressive, let alone radically progressive. And because this gets into the whole fucking thing we're about to talk about with Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, it's been usurped and moved on. So they do, but they don't know what I said today, but I said the same shit yesterday in Bible study. So that's life.
My stepdad, who's also a liberal Democrat Lutheran minister in your same Senate, is I think he's lobby lurking. He's not a real prolific scoper, but he is watching it and following along. He must be lobby lurking.
But we have in the ELCA and our ecumenical, which means partners that are similar in style, substance, and leadership. We are all about trying to find ways to humanize people, to get healthcare moved through, to stand up for gay, lesbian, transgender, and any other outcast that's getting thrown out, because that's simply how we interpret the gospel. The most important thing about our entire faith is when they ask Jesus, what's the most important commandment? He says, all right, simple. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it. And in Greek, it's literally an equals sign, which means it's the same thing. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
And so when people want to throw 10 commandments or God versus the devil bullshit, or take Jesus Christ, your personal Lord and Savior, man, I sit in grace. I didn't earn anything, and I've been given a gift of life, love, and I'm called to share it. Tim, do you have a word on that too?
Amen, brother. I was raised by loggers in the Pacific Northwest, so that's why
a farm kid from Iowa.
And I'm a real person. And my focus is entirely based on grace. And it's that Jesus Christ would rather I have a heart for him and sharing the gospel and then worry about me saying fuck. I can say fuck as much as I want. As long as I am focused on sharing the gospel, Jesus doesn't care about my language. Jesus cares about my heart.
Or the bedroom. Or what I wear.
It's inclusive, Jesus hung out with the people who were drinking. Honestly, that was the biggest critique, is that Jesus was spending too much time with people drinking and eating and going to wedding banquets and parties. And Jesus was just having a good time with the sinners because he wanted them to know they were loved. That was the whole basis of the radical gospel, is that the sinners are loved, So fuck it.
And that's what's up, man.
It's a good message.
We're doing anti-racism training in our churches right now to talk to people about how to literally unpack their own bias that they don't even fucking know they have. And these are the most absolutely magical conversations. Are they going to go anywhere? Are they going to make our churches full again? No, because America has moved on, and that's a whole other discussion. Because and I was telling Tim this earlier this week. that if we wanted to fill our churches up, all we have to do is scare people and tell them that God is coming at them and they need to join our church to save their soul, and that Trump is a gift from God. And I'd be set, but I don't touch that because I don't believe in any of it.
It's just like fishing with dynamite, right? Just scare people into it versus work for every person and pass an actual message. And I would argue that churches would also be more full if they were more opening to moving past a language that they take, like you said, word by word, and not allowing the expansion, which means you basically, a lot of it will die out with the generation because younger people aren't really interested in going if they're going to be yelled at for cussing or dressing or drinking. And when you say if you do all those things, you're going to hell and you really can't be saved. You have to join the church. You have to stop what you're doing.
You have to shut this off. You have to shut this thing off.
Yeah, you got to. That's it. Why? It's much harder to bring that person in.
Totally.
So I love what you're doing because you're just saying let's be better people, and I'm not judging you, or as long as you're not causing harm, let's be better people. And that, by the way, is a Democratic policy.
Amen.
Politics is helping more people versus the other one, which is more Republican Christianity, which is a lot more stricter, and it's do as I say.
No, I've got go ahead, Marty.
Well, last question for halftime, and it's for you. Just quick. I know you got to go do something real quick.
So, man, me and John had a great time. We collabed, and we have a lot in common. Some people say that Courtney is kind of like Yoko, and I basically listened to the Beatles and the Pixies the whole time. I was like, becoming a rock star.
I just gotta say, can we break some news? Is there an album coming?
There might be an album. We'll see.
All right,
we'll see.
Go do your thing.
So I actually just remembered that the whole last 3 weeks, I've been receiving text messages. I don't know how the Republican Party have gotten my phone number, but I'd love to share it with you all. And you're gonna like this one. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh my!
Oh, hold on. Let me.
I'll read it out loud.
Your phone number.
It's not my phone number. That's why I don't mind putting up there.
There you go. Yeah. Here,
I read it for you. Down. This is American Patriots PAC. Raphael Warnock caught saying nobody can serve God and the military. Watch. He wants to cut funding for our troops. Warnock and Ossoff will help Democrats gut our military, put America at risk, vote like America depends on it because it does. Reply stop to end. You should reply stop to that. But there it is.
Yeah.
God, guns, fear.
Oh, yeah.
It sells better than sex. Speaking of which, we've got another clip. Whoops. I just did something. Let's bring you in.
There's pure sex right there.
Here's Roy.
Oh, it is a little gun.
Look at how little that is. It's like a 22 long, I think.
Look at his little.
It is. It's a fucking midnight special. 22.
It's like a 22 long 5-shot pistol, I think.
Oh my God.
Look at the handle. It only covers 2 fingers.
Look at that.
That was in a crowded auditorium. That wasn't outside. That
Seriously, yeah. So the one part I do specifically remember is he was waving that fucking thing around. He wasn't just holding it up. Once he had it out, he started walking back and forth across the stage, waving it around in his hand.
Birdman's calling that a 38. I don't think so. Look at that. Look at the revolver part.
It's too long. It's too long.
Yeah, and the
what's that called? The magazine or the revolver part itself is way too small to have 38.
Chamber, is way too narrow for a 38.
It's got to be a 22.
Exactly right.
Redemption says 22 also.
All very narrow.
38 snub nose is like the cap gun we all had,
Yeah.
It had different proportions than that. That's kind of much narrower. I guess it's called that part that rotates as the magazine on a revolver. I don't know, but either way, where all the rounds are is not big enough to be a 38, unless it's like a 3-shot 38, something really strange. No, I don't think it looks like a 38 at all.
Okay, well, beyond the caliber,
The caliber of the candidate was the problem.
All right, well,
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
the irresponsibility was the problem also.
Yeah.
He should have had a 45 long rifle, and then here he is with a binky gun.
Phallic, what do we call that? Maybe a phallic giveaway?
Yeah, probably a little telling too much.
I doth protest, you know.
It may be small, but it's powerful.
It ain't the size of the caliber. I don't even know how to finish that. All right.
You know,
Fine.
it's
Oh my gosh.
uh
All right.
you know-
So second half of the show, I want to focus on this, and it's kind of a sideways question, and I want more questions from the crowd about this because I think we're going to go down this road. Let's deal with Mitch and the Civil War, and let's talk about two things.
Oh yeah.
The assault on freedom of speech, and has it occurred to you while this time is happening that because of the dumbing down, we may just be at a situation where we can't talk as freely as we were? Has any of you felt that over these past weeks? And if I'm wrong, I'll step back. I'm okay with that. But I have felt like, and it kind of goes back to Mr. Clean's question about is it the progressive messaging or is it the GOP's messaging about the progressive messaging? We can't throw down yet, man. We can't talk about what we need to be talking about to be sexy enough to win some more votes in Georgia. We can't lay down new track right now. And maybe it's Christmas. Maybe they're going to come out with something after Christmas is over and say, oh, for the last week, Joe is all about a new progressive thing. I don't think that's coming. I think you get all your politicking done before Christmas Eve and everybody does family stuff because people's bandwidth is filled. And then what's the last date of voting? The 5th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
People are already
damn near baked, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ace, you said it last time. You want to throw down and say, here's why I want you to vote for these people, and they're not doing it.
They're not doing it. There's absolutely zero message of why. They're not even putting policies on their brochures. I have a big issue with the reason that I think that the Democratic Party is not pushing Ossoff is he's unfortunately the weak link. Warnock, if it was just a Warnock, he would probably win. Ossoff is going against Perdue, which is a much harder takedown because he's been the senator for a lot longer. Loeffler wasn't even she wasn't elected. So people generally don't like her as much. She's not really likable, and she was put into her role. She's a much easier takedown. Also, Warnock is just a much better candidate.
Ace.
What policies do centrists have, though?
Oh,
So,
they have Obamacare.
Question. There's
Well,
no
this is endless.
policies that leftists have here that they're running either. You don't have AOC. If AOC thought that she could help the state, she would be rallying in the state and she would be pushing her Green New Deal. They haven't said the words Green New Deal. There hasn't been a peep out of them. They don't even want to broach it. They use words like infrastructure and solar, but the words Green New Deal are not coming out of Warnock's or Ossoff's mouth during any campaign ad. So don't think that they're pushing. They are progressive, but they're not. They can't push that here. It's a dead subject.
What can they push?
Well, they can push
money, which they haven't. They can push money and help with government, help with testing. They could push COVID-related issues, which they haven't.
Ace, how's that going to play in Georgia when money starts coming? Aren't they going to be able to ring the bell of socialism that's burnt in down? I mean,
people don't care about that because in the very end, it's just money. It's all cool as long as money is coming in. And I guarantee you're about to, and I know we're going to broach the Mitch subject, but mark my words, when they pass this new bill and it has money, the Republicans are going to try to take credit for sending people money, not the Democrats, because money, checks in the mail has always been a winning issue. It's a winning issue because everybody gets it. It doesn't matter really how much it is. It's free money. People are happy with it. And I guarantee you Mitch McConnell is going to push and say, the Republicans got you the money. And they're much better at this versus Nancy Pelosi. And the reality is if they get the money in the settlement, that means Nancy Pelosi won, because she was the bill they tried to get her to sign included basically nothing. It was, let's reuse the money that we have, not even give $300 to unemployment, and just put stuff in vaccine and more PPP. And she said, absolutely not. We gotta do something about the money for we got to do something about for unemployment, and we want checks and we want money. But
Mr.
I think
Cobain.
they're going to take the credit.
Mr. Cobain.
Well, man, like Ace said it all. No, but I mean, yeah.
Well, Mnuchin, even if that's how you say his name, he even withdrew the emergency funds. He said, we're shutting down the emergency funds program. And they brought him back to the table to try and close this deal. I think Ace is absolutely right, and it's already happening. The Republicans are already taking credit. And when Pelosi was saying we need to have checks for people and we need to have assurances for these small businesses, all the Republicans were saying was we were trying to make a deal, and the Democrats are the ones who are refusing to give you the money that we're trying to get you, even though it was absolutely the opposite in reality.
And people were giving Nancy such a hard time. She even ended up having an actual, like, pretty aggressive fight with Wolf Blitzer, of all people, on CNN, because she was trying to make the point, listen, I'm not just going to sign anything just to have something signed. Absolutely. And everyone was giving her a hard time, like, but you got to help people. And she's like, that's what I'm trying to do. The way they have this bill set up right now, there's no accountability as to where the money goes. So what's the point of me signing it if I can't ensure that the money gets to the people that need it? We could end up with the same scenario like we did last time, where you have billions and billions of dollars that just simply disappear. By the way, the United States of America has 300 million people. The European Union is 600 million people. They didn't even need to play with as much money as what we played with in that previous bill. And where did the money go? It went to Joel Osteen. It went to the Lakers. It went to Princeton. It went to people that it wasn't supposed to go to. The little man who was hard on his luck, who lost his job, no one was looking out for them. And so she was like, well, listen, wait 1 second. Next time this bill or something like this comes across my desk, I'm not just going to blindly sign something. I want to make sure that there are parameters and there are margins in there that make sure that it gets to the people it's supposed to get to. But they don't want that. The Republicans don't want that. And Ace will be able to tell you all about all the shenanigans they used to hide and cover up, because they didn't even want it to come out into the open where the previous money went. And Wolf Blitzer just couldn't get that through his head. Yeah. He thought that she was lollygagging and dragging her feet, but she wasn't. She was trying to make sure that that the little people get the damn money this time. Right?
Exactly. You take PPE, $750 billion disappeared literally within a week and a half. They got rid of all of it, just disappeared. And they said, hey, we ran out of the money. And then the U.S. government, Nancy came back and said, where did it all go? Oh, we don't really know. We gave it to the banks. The banks gave it to the people. She asked them, well, you have to release us where the money went before we give you more money. Yep. And they said, no, we're not going to do that, but we need more money. So what did Nancy do? She said, fine, we'll give you 250 more, but we need you to hire an oversight person, a person that's going to make sure that it goes to the right people.
They don't want that. They don't want that. Right?
They said, okay. Donald Trump fired them the very next day. And this is going to be the biggest scandal when he leaves, is eventually they're going to release where all the money went. And basically the way the system worked is it allowed a cap of I think $22 million per business. So what the banks did is they went to all of their big rollers and they said, hey, do you want a free 22 mil? Because we know you're going to pay it back, or at least some of it. And they gave all of the companies the maximum amount. And by the time everybody blinked, your average guy that's running a pizzeria, he doesn't get anything. And there's a stat that came out of the $2 trillion, the United States normal citizens only received about 22%. 22%. The rest of it went to the 1%.
My wife's business did get it, so that was good for them. But I agree with you. I think it was heavily corrupted.
Oh,
and there was no checks and balances.
Yeah,
you could say, "Give me money, I won't fire any people," and then you could take the money and still shut down and fire people.
Well, and there were also companies, if I'm not mistaken, that got, say, $15 million, and their annual payroll is only $8 million. So they literally took a kind of loan that's like 2 full years worth of payroll, while so-and-so, cafe is laying people off.
Yeah.
So this time around, they wanted to give a little bit more. So she actually won her fight. But the question is are they all going to run out and say, "Hey, we got you checks. This is what the wait was for. We wanted more money. We wanted more checks." But they said no. But I have a feeling it's not going to happen. The Republicans are going to take advantage. I wouldn't be surprised if those checks again had somehow Donald Trump's name on them.
Oh, again. They will. Yeah.
So
I have a question for the panel. If we're not going to pick up, because we're at 3/4 of the way through.
Rock on, dude.
So basically, my question is this. Donald Trump has been up to no good for the last 4 years. We all know that. And there's a lot of people that have helped him. And the question is, and Ace and I have gone back and forth, and we can't even agree on what the right measure is. But should you prosecute a former United States president? And if you start to consider, the pitfalls of each, way of going about it, if you prosecute a president and your party in power isn't from the same one that he's in, then you just look like someone that's going after a political rival. Also, you need to consider that 72 million people voted for this individual, and from their point of view, he actually won. Some of them think he won even. So they're not going to be too pleased if you start chasing after him and trying to throw him in jail. On the other hand, of course, I'm sure you guys can fill in the rest. But basically, there has to be some accountability. There has to be. So we have to take stock of what just happened here. We have an individual that was willing to sell, American deals and, for personal gain. When he goes to China, for instance, and helps his daughter secure copyrights for her business that's worth billions of dollars, that wasn't for us. That wasn't for the American people. That was for him. That was for him. And what was he bargaining with? Us. Our money, our country, not his. He's not offering anything. So, he's selling the presidency. That can't be right.
Well, he's quid pro quoed since the impeachment. The quid pro quo is literally, it's his two-step, man. Everything about it is this now is a presidency for sale at all times, in all places, for all comers.
Selling pardons or whatever else. So my question to the panel, what do you do? Because you could prosecute him, but there's going to be a problem with that. Or you don't prosecute him, and these sorts of things, we're supposed to just like turn a blind eye to all these sorts of shenanigans.
Who says no and who says yes?
Okay, I just want to jump in real quick.
Okay, so we got one no, and let's do a yes, no quick, and then
I say yes, but I think I might have the same thing to say Tim has.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well, I think that's a wonderful question, and it's definitely on point with what we're trying to accomplish in terms of forging a way forward. But my answer is that yes, and we don't need to come up with new cases to look like we're trying to punish a political rival. The dude is already deep into investigations, multiple investigations, state investigations that pardons have no effect on whatsoever. Bro is going to be going to court as soon as he gets out of the White House, and that is a guarantee. And in New York, that's a guarantee. It's going to happen.
I agree with Tim. If you're talking about sexual assault, you're talking about tax fraud that he committed before he was president. When you're talking about I don't know if there's crimes involved with McDougal and Stormy with catch and kill and all that stuff. Yes. Now, Ukraine, the quid pro quo with Ukraine, that was an impeachment. It failed. I would argue you shouldn't come back and now prosecute him again for quid pro quo in Ukraine. That just sounds like you can't take a loss. So I think it's got to be nuanced, and it shouldn't be every little political problem that we had with Trump. But on the other hand, especially the crimes he committed outside the presidency, or things like lying about the funding of his own inauguration where he embezzled funds. I think things like that, like embezzlement, personal crimes, property crimes that were inflicted on citizens. But when you get up into the insider trading, behind the curtains, dark deals, it's going to very quickly feel like a political battle, and I would discourage those unless they're just blatantly obvious. I mean, unless it's just like, look, this guy founded a business day X and then paid it $50 million to make masks, never made it. Unless it's just so easily contained in a case, I wouldn't go after every little thing he's done.
Right.
Yeah. You can't. The government really should stay out of it for at least until 2 years from now to see what happens in the election. You can't go after him at all as the federal government because he is going to be highly popular and highly polarizing, and he's going to just keep on. This is his plan. He's going to keep on rallying up the troops just in case they do try to prosecute him. Then he's going to scream foul that they're trying to take down a leader or a political rival, and the whole thing is going to go crazy. What they need to do, and my suspicion is this is what they're going to do, because I've heard Adam Schiff talk about it, is they have 4 years to clean things up and button up all the holes. We now know where all the holes are, and they need to all start writing rules and policies against every single hole that Donald Trump opened. No kids working in the government, make that super strict. Fix the Hatchet Act. Fix all of these acts where you can't make money from the U.S. Fix all of that, and then on top of that, you go hard on people around him. You prosecute the hell out of everyone around them because they're much easier fish to fry, and it will show the next time around, just like Nixon. Hey, the big guy will still be fine. You're going to prison, though, and he's not going to say shit. He's going to throw you under the bus, by the way. So enjoy that. So next time around, Donald Trump Jr. tries to run, first of all, it's all fixed up. It's clean, less holes. And people are going to be like, I don't know. Your father's people tend to go to prison a lot. I'm staying out of it.
What about you, Marty?
I'm very much believing that you're not going to prosecute a president from a federal position. It's not going to happen, and I don't think it should happen. But I do believe that the howitzers are aimed at him from New York and other states. And more importantly, it's scorched earth on every asshole who was one of his complicit criminals in this enterprise, and they're still happening. And that leads us into the hack that's been months and months and months, 3/4 of a year potentially underway. It's Pearl Harbor with no response, guys. It's unbelievable. And they're complicit. It's every single one of them who is, I don't know what kind of manslaughter it would be. I guess it would be sort of step away manslaughter, but everybody who's on record at saying, let them catch the fucking thing. I mean, this whole response to COVID is criminal. All of the insider traders. So that's the other piece about Loeffler and Perdue. Both of them will be going to prison from the Senate if they win, which is another piece that they might want to say to the folk of Georgia. They're like, unless you want another one of these stupid elections in the next 9 months, because Joe Biden's about to put Loeffler and all these insider trading son of a bitches up are going down, dude. They're done. That's going to happen. You're going to see sitting senators go to prison during this term. So fuck Trump.
I do want to clarify that we cannot go after Trump on a federal level because we have to stop trying to treat the fucking federal government like a partisan tool where the FBI is supposed to serve the whims of the fucking president and the attorney general is the fucking president's bitch. I mean, that shit is the fucking core of corruption. That is so antithetical to the Constitution, and we've been eating that shit for 4 years. Fuck no, we don't go after him as a federal government. We say the federal government is nonpartisan. We've got bigger shit to take care of. That fucking has been, and we've got other things to move on to.
Jeff, did you have something?
I would maybe say, I wouldn't necessarily say federal government can't. I agree. It's much better if it states. You know, I'd have to see, like I say, I'd have to see the receipts. It can't be something like he shouldn't have told Ukraine to look at Joe Biden, like we've said. That's been covered. It can't be something sort of mamby-pamby. But if he got cash under the table for the Saudi Arabian arms deal or something, if they can prove he got cash under the table for selling the Saudis arms, then the federal government should investigate and prosecute.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say it shouldn't happen, but it needs to be these like black and white, serious, major things. Not, like I say, these little taste-based part. It can't be partisan at all. It's going, if the federal's going to get involved, it can't be Benghazi. What could he have done in the middle of the night to save a Marine's life? It has to be like something big. Like he literally was handed an envelope full of cash, and then he made a very advantageous deal with the Saudis, who then turned around and used those weapons to kill Muslims in other countries or wherever they went.
I want to move us on, but I want to keep us here because this question has to be looked at from a second angle, and that is what we're talking about here. Is there's a word for it? It's called scofflaw,
right?
And it's one of the reasons why prohibition was overturned, because it created a culture where everybody was blowing off the law,
right?
And so scofflaw politics in the Biden and future administration. In a future AOC, potentially a future AOC, in a couple of years, House of Representatives. Where do we begin to turn that around? Because the scofflaw piece cannot exist, or our country will be gone. I mean, it just this corruption shit will just fester and fester and fester. So, so how do we make that a priority? And I just want to throw that at the group.
Well, we got to make corruption, like tackling corruption, a priority. The biggest obstacle to that right now, though, is that half your country is watching Fox News and they're telling you that there is no corruption. Donald Trump never did anything wrong. He didn't accept any money. He didn't sell out just to kill one guy for his own publicity so he could get elected in exchange for giving Turkey swaths of land in Syria, which must have cost the United States government a fortune over the last 6 years to pay for American soldiers, bullets, lives, blood, tears, sweat to go over in Syria and secure that land and work in conjunction with our allies up there to make sure that we had a handle of things. He pissed it all away so that he could say, hey, I caught this guy. It's like my own Osama. I can't even remember the guy's freaking name. And, that obviously came from a deal with Erdogan. And, it's amazing how Erdogan and the Russians were able to offer this person up so quickly because they knew where he was all along. You literally just traded, a Ferrari for a handful of beans. You're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So these things, this is the obstacle, Marty, is that, like I said, half the people are not, we got to tackle corruption. But the other side is going, we got to tackle corruption. It's you guys, the left, the commies, the Biden crime family, and all this kind of nonsense.
It was Baghdadi, wasn't it?
It was Baghdadi, yes.
Was it Baghdadi? Yeah.
It was really confusing though, because apparently Baghdadi was cornered by a dog, where he pled for his life, but then also somehow blew himself up.
Yeah, Donald Trump said, actually, you know what happened? Yeah, he completely I remember that.
It's a little confusing.
Yeah, it was confusing.
And in the process, he classified a canine unit that was illegal. That's the kind of stuff he does.
But by the way, the fallout for that was that General Mattis quit his job over that because well, I don't need to get into that.
The side by side.
Take it too far from the subject at hand, but I'm just trying to demonstrate that these things, they don't seem important. They probably don't seem important to the average American on a daily basis. But the cost of these things, not just financially, but the cost of America's, standing in the world and our good name in the future, when we may need to endeavor in some other corner of the globe, and we say, hey, we you want to join us or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, right, like you did the Kurds, forget you guys. And then our troops are just hanging out, completely exposed. This is why General Mattis left. So this is corruption, but it's very difficult to prosecute and litigate this corruption when there's a completely different narrative on the other side. And I honestly think, before we address the corruption, somehow we need to address. I don't know how to how to exactly articulate it, but we need to tackle like conspiracy theories and false messaging and lying and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is my last point. I don't know. You saw Senator Johnson was in charge of a committee today or yesterday where, hey, I just want to explore it. And you said yourself, Johnson, that it was a safe election and everything else. So why are you humoring us with a committee hearing for hours on end about whether or not there was corruption in this election? This is the problem. I want us to address corruption. I want us to be like Singapore, one of these countries which just has zero tolerance for corruption. You get caught for corruption in the Singaporean government, I mean, the penalty is just like massive. They threw you in jail for 40 years or something. That's how seriously they take it, because they want people to believe and trust in them. When an American general tells you that you have America's word, it's got to mean something. But it's not going to mean something like this, and that puts us all in danger. And like you said, if people just all start breaking the rules like they did in Prohibition and ignoring stuff, the whole goddamn thing just collapses.
It can't stand. It can't do it.
Well, and when you have the president, leading the charge of saying fuck the laws, then that is the worst case scenario, because then he's leading the example of disregarding law and order, and then nothing is going to stand. I mean, it's going to fall.
Hello from New Zealand. Hello. We're over here in the States trying to suss out our future. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Yep.
I mean, I also think that the other way you can attack Trump is you have to start pointing out at failures and their effects a lot more. Not just actually saying in a way where people don't point at you, say, oh, you're just blaming on Trump, but specifics. Actual specifics. We have emails where they talked about herd immunity and getting more and more people sick, which now I think it's going to be the biggest scandal out of this whole thing is we're going to find out that the internal governments, that their policy was herd immunity without telling the public, which is why they hate masks and they love gatherings. Because masks slow the whole thing down. When you have emails that specifically say we need to infect them all, open the floodgates, it's all in emails. If they push this thing without telling the public, you're going to have a lot of people go to prison because a lot of people lied under oath. There were people under oath that were asked specifically, like Alex Azar, are we implementing herd immunity as a policy? He said no. And if we find out that there are emails where he said, oh, maybe we should look into this or we should push this, it's going to be a big thing, because by the time Trump is out and not president, you're looking at probably 350,000 deaths. By the time after Christmas ends, I'm assuming by February, it's probably going to hit 400,000. And probably will finish up around 600,000. That's a lot of people that are going to be dead, more than any wars. And a president that says that this was like his war, and he lost that many soldiers. I don't understand how the Republicans can let this whole thing go by their commander-in-chief basically saying, oh, well, you know, they die. It is what it is.
Jeff, give me the hand signal when you got something for me to put up, okay?
Yeah, that's deaths as of today, 317,928.
And I think today is the most amount, right? The 3,600 people.
Yeah.
And this is only the swing from Thanksgiving.
Right.
We haven't even gotten the Christmas swing, which is a long haul thing, and we haven't gotten the New Year's swing. We still have 2 more waves more.
Yeah,
right.
Terrible.
And in order for our population to reach herd immunity, I heard a figure, I think we would have to lose at least 3 million people for the rest of the population to reach immunity.
And what they seem to have also misplaced in their ideas about herd immunity is how long you actually remain immune to coronavirus. In other words, it seems like you might only stay immune for, say, a year, 18 months. So you have to lose 3 million people every 18 months, which is obviously not sustainable.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not a model that works. It's not like, I don't know what would be a better example. It's not like mono, where you get mono and then you're not likely to get it again. It's not like that.
It's a model that shows a complete lack of regard for fellow citizens.
Yeah, this
it's
up
a
here
model from leadership that Trump has never come out and said, I am standing in solidarity with all of you who are grieving because you've lost loved ones during this pandemic.
Never.
Hey, Marty, I sent you some of the excerpts from the emails. It's on our group, but I don't know.
Okay.
The day he talked about Herman Cain, in an ironic twist, he talked about Herman Cain being dead and 150,000 Americans dead from coronavirus, and that was that day's number. So ironically, while he's never really done a very good job being sympathetic, he did jam a stake in the ground that he believes the published numbers. So he's kind of always done the wrong thing, of course. And yeah, the herd immunity seems like it was a bad gamble that he made up with apparently a radiologist, which is not the type of person you would want to make a plan with on a viral outbreak. I mean, that's like asking me to solve a nuclear reactor problem. I'm an industrial engineer. I don't have any nuclear engineering experience. I have no chemical engineering experience. I took Chem 101 and Chem 102 and engineering materials. I don't have any expertise on nuclear material. Just like a radiologist knows nothing about viral spread besides his basic medical education, which again is pretty minimal. I mean, you know, epidemiology is its own thing for a reason. Just like emergency medicine, just like every specialty, they all have their own sets of challenges. And then, so this dude's just a doctor by name, basically. He's not an immunologist. So, and of course now Atlas has stepped down and left. You know, he's classic Trump. He used somebody for one theory that he could then, you know, blame the guy forever. I mean, the truth is, as we've just discussed, if shit really goes bad, it'll be Scott Atlas that gets hung out for it.
Of course.
And he should lose his license because he's gotten briefed many times by the world's experts that masks help and they work. He has the data. So if he goes out as a doctor professional and tells people against that data that he knows for a fact is right, he's
negligent.
Medical license. I would also argue it should be criminal.
I agree.
If they went and told us our whole theory is not herd immunity, and he knows, and it's not, if he goes by not a herd immunity model, but he pushes no masks after knowing they work, that he's trying to kill people on purpose.
Yeah.
Without doing herd immunity as a benefit, which doesn't work.
And my right-wing friend is still talking about HCQ after that's been handled for freaking months.
Yeah.
So these are from emails. These are actual emails that were written. Not.
Can you guys see this? Okay.
I can read it on a pad. I might read it to the phone viewers.
Okay, cool. I'll read it to the phone viewers. All right. So, should I just read the highlighted portion?
Yeah, pretty much.
It may be that it will be best if we open up the flood zone and let the kids and young folks get infected. That's July 24th. Here's another one. Oops, that's the same one.
Same one twice.
Here's July 4th. July 4th. You guys remember the 4th of July? Do you remember where you were? I do.
Home.
This was written, infants, kids, teens, young people, young adults, middle-aged with no conditions, etc., have zero to little risk. So we use them to develop herd. We want them infected and recovered with antibodies. There is no other way. We need to establish herd, and it only comes about allowing the non-high-risk groups expose themselves to the virus, period. Henry, are you having I can't see because I'm reading this, but are you freaking out over there with this?
I am, because what I'm doing right now is thinking about all the loved ones who've died, who never got to be part of this decision. Nice for him to make the decision for everyone else. But you know what? There are people sitting here in America right now thinking, I wasn't a part of this. I didn't subscribe to this. I wasn't opting for this. I would like my mom back. I would like my dad back. I would like my coworker back. Nice of you to make this decision on your own about who gets to live and who gets to die. I mean, talk about death panels. What the hell is this?
Yep.
It's disgraceful.
There you go. The infants and children who are at low or no risk, the teens who are at also no risk, the young people at very small risk of severe illness, younger adults and low risk with folk with no conditions, etc., allowing them to spread it and be infected, kind of like measles parties.
Oof.
Yeah. And this is criminal herd, because unlike the other countries, there were countries that did herd immunity. I think Switzerland was one of them.
Sweden.
Right.
But the difference between them and this is they told all of their people that was the policy, and they told everybody at risk to stay home. They subsidized all the people at risk. Then they told the rest of the people that were not at risk to go out. Our government told us nothing and said, go out there and have some fun.
He called it a hoax at one point.
And make it a hoax. It's a criminal herd plan versus the other ones were told to the public.
Ace, check this one out. If it is causing more cases in young, my word is, who cares? As long as we make sensible decisions and protect the elderly in nursing homes, we must go on with life. Who cares if we test more and get more positive tests? And then it finally says here, are these test results serious? I mean, it goes on.
And who wrote all these?
And in fact, whose words have been copied and said over and over and over, other than Donald Trump? He said that exact same thing on TV multiple times. So this was the policy without letting the rest of the public know.
Were those Scott Atlas emails? Is that what those were?
No, this was their top scientist before he quit. So
Henry,
why they didn't like masks. So when people were asking everybody, what's up with the masks? That's why. The masks were being counterproductive.
It's this point right here. Yeah. It's genocide for the weak and elderly while they just let these kids. I mean, I was arguing with local school board member or school directors here, principals and folks in our local school district saying, you guys got to get creative about having outdoor school, and they were getting inundated in Colorado. The school boards and school superintendents were getting inundated with stuff from groups called the Family Action Council, I believe was the name, FAC, and they formed in late May to be a Christian evangelical perspective to support school directors and superintendents in making sure the kids got back to school, because it was part of their vocation and all this fucking bullshit. And it was just like this right-wing propaganda was trying to get kids sick.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, Trump, the moment we locked down, right? The moment states should do what they want. States should do what they want. The moment each state locked down, that's a big mistake. We got to open back up. I mean, he did everything he could to fight, even when the states made decisions. He was always, what I've said, pro-COVID. And people look at you funny and you go, well, you tell me why the Republicans are pro-COVID. And they say, we're not pro-COVID. They're not pro-COVID. Every time it comes up on city, county levels, across the entire country, state level, it's always the Republicans that fight it.
And then now, and Mr. Clean is correct, and then we see that there were kids with not only death, but the amount of complications that people are experiencing.
Oh, for all we know, all these kids that had it and had no symptoms were never even diagnosed to having it. For all we know, they hit puberty and they have major blood clotting issues. Or, I mean, you have no idea how these things are laying latent in somebody's body.
And how many fathers and mothers, owners of households died.
Yeah.
I mean,
What I worry about
it also gets back to a point that Jeff was making earlier, that this man was completely not suited for the role that he was in charge of. He was a radiologist, not an epidemiologist, and certainly not someone who could possibly know as much as someone like Fauci, who's worked for several administrations on both sides of the aisle for more than 40 years, a well-respected epidemiologist. And how do we know? Because he doesn't think about the big picture. He's just thinking about deaths, and he's just thinking about the hospital bills. But that's actually the point that I'm angling towards, which is that he didn't take any consideration of what the impact of this would be on the hospitals of our nation, the ICUs that were overwhelmed. I have the best man at my wedding who was in the United States military. He was sent from Louisiana to Texas to help build our hospital tents. He's a physician's assistant, and he went to treat there because they were completely overwhelmed. In the meantime, if your grandmother, if your daughter, let's say your daughter had a car wreck or your father had a heart attack and he went to the hospital, they weren't going to have the resources to help those individuals. So even people who weren't affected by COVID essentially were affected by COVID because he didn't take stock of what this would do to the healthcare system in our country. It just shows the lack of awareness about how to tackle a public health issue. You're a radiologist. You don't know shit about public health. Sit down and let someone else take care of this.
Right. Oh, and that's actually an example of an actual. I mean, at least on local levels, you're arguing wearing masks, and people are talking. They're using religious reasons to not want to wear masks. That God will take them when God wants to, and you have all these people that have absolutely no training in any kind of epidemiology, blasting. We have a guy who studied here in town. We have a guy who studied under Fauci, and he goes in front of the county government, city government, talks about it. And he gets called that somehow, me, I've unfriended 2 people off Facebook that I've known since I was 14 years old because they said my wife was on the take. That's why she's talking negatively about COVID. God. That my wife gets paid by somebody. Just FYI, my wife only gets paid by her practice, and she only gets paid for the services she gives to patients. Nobody outside gives them any money. They lose money on every single vaccination. It's a lie. It's all a ludicrous lie. And so people just make up a boogeyman. And they just push their dialogue that makes no sense at all. The truth is it's a deadly cold, and you shouldn't get it. And you know what? Maybe you shouldn't sit in a restaurant. And if you're a restaurateur, maybe you need to figure out a way to get your food to people that can't come to your restaurant. Get on Grubhub. Do your own delivery. Why can't your restaurant do its own delivery with all those servers you don't have? Start your own website. jeffsdiner.com will deliver for free, menu prices. You'd be busy every freaking night. But
not if you don't have to adapt. Not if you don't have to adapt, though, Jeff.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead, they'd COVID deny. This guy I'm talking about that owns this diner, his dad started. He's at the Chiefs games, not wearing a mask. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Trump, we know that he knew how serious it was because of the tape when he was being interviewed for the book.
Oh yeah.
Right. He said, I know how deadly it is. It's way more deadly than the flu. Oh, yeah, and it's also airborne, so that's going to be a big fucking problem. Well, shithead, if you had just told people to wear a mask from the beginning, it literally would have saved 200,000 lives at the conservative estimate.
And the core of the problem is Donald Trump's personal integrity. He has no ability to come from in front of the country and say, guess what? We're in for a world of hurt. Something really bad has come. We all have to buckle down. We have to get prepared. Mm-hmm. I wish it wasn't coming, but it's coming. And make plans and tell people like we've done every time this has ever happened before. Wear masks. Stay home when you can. Don't destroy local business. So if you can, buy locally. Local businesses. Find a way to do curbside pickup. Find a way to do delivery. Let's all work together to bring this model down into our homes and reduce our contact. He doesn't have the ability to stop and say, this is hard. All the rest of us had to eat crow in our life. We've made a mistake. We've cut down our neighbor's tree. We've broken a window, and we had to go knock on their door and say, I broke your window. I was goofing around. And you know what? You take your pain and you help them fix the window and you do your duty. And probably you leave better friends than you were when you started because you took responsibility. He doesn't have that in him at all. He's a super privileged rich kid, and he doesn't have personal integrity to take responsibility for his, even in this case, not his mistake. He still could have blamed it on China, but he could have said, look, this virus came from China. We don't know why. Everyone, we got to buckle down. We got to stay at home. But the answer is he hung everything on the stock market. So he He couldn't do that because when the stock market checked up, he'd have to eat crow. So what he was hoping to do, in my mind, is he was hoping to have 50,000 deaths by the election. And when it ended up being 250, he didn't get reelected. So he gambled and he lost, like a crappy casino owner that he is.
Yep.
And if you think about it, it's because really this whole thing could have been resolved with the PPP. They just gave the PPP to the wrong people.
Yep.
It was $750 billion. All they should have done is done targeted PPP. They should have gone into hot zones and said, hey, we're shutting everything down here. All the restaurants, all the gyms, but we're making you whole. So go and spend time with your family. You make you make 10,000 a month. Here's your 10,000. We'll make you whole while you're shut down. Then in a couple of weeks, when you come back, we're good to go and attack hot zones. But what did the Republicans do? And what did Donald Trump do? They saw a crap load of money that they got their fingers on, and they wanted to make sure that the right people were getting that money, their friends, their buddies. And that's why the money went poof, and it went to mega churches and a Fortune 500 companies. Explain to me why a Walmart that's always been open, a Walmart type, would even get PPP. There were a whole bunch of businesses that should have never even gotten it because they shouldn't have ever removed any employees because they were safe. People go to Kroger and Walmart and all these places all the time. So you should have just done targeted. Hey, you own a gym. Well, for 2 months, it's going to be shut down. Let me see your IRS forms. It looks like your gym during this month made $30,000. Yep. Here's 30 grand. We'll move on. Targeted. And that, by the way, when you see all these Republicans that are always upset about the government shutting down their business and taking away your earning, that would have been completely removed. People would have loved the government because you would have told them, go home, spend time with your family during this terrible time, pray, and be safe. We got you covered. We'll be back.
Even for 2 weeks, if the government would just say, everybody go home for 2 weeks. Here's a check.
You gotta have
go
something.
Buy your groceries.
But
right, yeah, except for just the essential businesses, the essential services. Everybody else, go home for 2 weeks. Don't go to a party. Don't go to church. Don't do anything. Just think about the effect that would have. Right?
Well,
I'm not even a doctor, but I can tell you that, if we spent as much time as you're supposed to spend in quarantine as a society voluntarily, the numbers would plummet across the country.
Yeah, we still have that power, and we just don't have leadership. And one of the things we also saw over that summer period, and in almost every school district in the country and every church in the country and every small business in the country, was people who were really good at running their operation, who were being put in basically the essential role of a local governorship. They were now the czar of public health, on top of running their school or running their business and buying whatever it is they're going to sell. I mean, and a lot of these people are not built for that. They're middle manager type folks. They're not meant to come in and go, oh my God, we have to reformat an entire educational program over the summer. They didn't do that, man. They were like, how long do we have to wait until somebody tells us what to do? And then they all tried to go back to school, and then they all fought it, and then they got out, and now we're going to go into the fucking winter, and everybody's screwing about which state you're in and what you're going to do with your kids. Dude.
Terrible. I mean, do you remember that barber from Texas that was all over the news where I'm opening up, and honestly, everybody was making fun of her, but in reality, what we really should have been asking is, why hasn't the government just comped you? Why didn't you just apply for PPP, stayed home for a month, and we would have been fine? Why do you have to open up? She has to open up because the government didn't take care of her. They said, shut down. And you also worry about your own bills. We don't really care. If you're a business owner, you're going to be like, screw that. I will never get a chance to reopen this business. It's going to shut down. I need to go out there and work.
Yep.
But that's a Republican mistake that the Democrats somehow take all the fault for because they're the people that shut things down versus Republicans are the people that open things up, where in reality, the Republicans are the ones that screwed this whole thing up.
But that
They
model
caused the reason for needing to shut things down.
They also did that by spreading herd immunity.
and the model failed so badly in like North and South Dakota, where they tried very hard to just be like, we're going to be this like secluded red state. We're not going to wear masks. I'm sure they just thought it will never come here.
Yep.
Of course, now it's come home to roost big time, of course.
Big time.
And I would like
When
to point out
Sturgis
that
came,
November 4th, there were 239,727 dead from COVID. So we've lost 100,000 since Trump lost the election. So I hate to make a joke, but maybe this is the dead duck period, while his lame duck period does nothing about it. COVID.
Seriously. Oh my God.
We're just fucking losing 100,000 people in whatever that is, a month and a half.
he's just checked out, Jeff. He still hasn't done anything since.
They better not save the election for him, because he's fucking worthless. I mean, look
Seriously,
at him.
man.
I don't know why he wants to come back for 4 more years.
No,
Yeah,
he couldn't
he
explain
doesn't
it
like
before
the
the
job or the work.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think he really wants to. I think at his core he doesn't want to come back. He's just riding the fucking money train because he knows he can keep asking for more money, pretending that he wants to run for 4 more years. And 75% of all the donations coming in can go to his personal assets. I fucking heard that on the news today. 75%. They're trying to save the election. He's just trying to take their fucking money before he goes home.
And leave
As
with
much as
face.
he can.
He wants to leave with face. He wants to leave being able to claim, no, there's this hanging issue you guys don't understand, but I'll let it, what I don't understand is why he doesn't just say, you know what, I could fight it and I could win and I could stay, but I'm just going to let you guys have it. Like, I don't know why he hasn't done that yet.
I also don't
like
know
the
why-
asshole concession, but he can't even do that.
All
I
right.
don't know why the public hasn't forced him to show actual. I talked to a guy that thinks that the election was stolen. I said, why haven't they gone to the public on TV and showed me a videotape of the Dominion machine changing votes? They can do that. They could take 100 Trump ballots, stick them into the machine, let the machine calculate it, and then it should come out with 73 Biden ballots, shouldn't it? Or even 9, or even 10 Biden and 9, or even one. Show me the video where it does this, but they can't do it because it doesn't exist.
Ace, first step one, Ace, you have to believe in rampant corruption. Everyone has been bought.
They erased it. It's always the other thing. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's not just the specific machine was changing votes. It's that Kemp's been bought by the Chinese. So has McConnell. Everything's corrupt. Everyone's corrupt. No one has personal integrity. The guy who sets up those machines, that obviously his main job would be vote integrity, he's been bought and paid for. They're all Democrats, of course. None of these people are Republicans. They're all Democrats just corrupting the system. It's just exhausting. My friend just lit me up the other day, and it's just the whole thing. And it all comes down to Kemp's been bought. McConnell's been bought. It's all built on this foundation of slime, so they can just make up whatever they want. They can't tie it back to actual facts. They just go the other way. They just say, well, the facts seem to say Biden won, but there's no way. Which, by the way, 100,000 people dying since Trump was not reelected. If the 240,000 people that died before the election aren't a good enough reason, I mean, seriously, for all these people, like, there's no way all those people voted for Biden. Well, when Donald Trump kills 250,000 Americans, he might have motivated some people.
Yeah. And the problem is most people don't understand how the election system works. So it's much easier to lie about it. People don't understand how the poll books work, how the audits work. They don't understand that. So they can be fed this craziness. And then when you tell them, wait a minute, how could someone steal a whole bunch of ballots when we have an audit book that says there are 10,000 people who have voted and we have 10,000 votes?
Right.
Who's stealing what?
Where's the audit book?
When I push for the numbers from my buddy, he's QAnon apparently is dead. He says QAnon's dead. He's in this like crowdsource information for Trump. He says that they bought rolls. They apparently paid for some sort of roll information. Now, of course, it's just a hotbed for Russian trolls, right? I mean, how hard would it be for a Russian troll to intercede that information, remove 1.5 million voters, send it on the QAnon alumni, and there you go, guys. Look, there's not enough voters, and they're sitting there because obviously someone buys it and then someone shares it, so the chain of custody is broken. It's just they can make 4 = 6. They know the information, guys.
I just want to welcome Amy Coney Barrett to the deep state because obviously,
right, church camp Amy.
Welcome.
Yes,
yeah,
she's in.
And that's just it. You're either 100% Trumpian or you're deep state bot. suck.
Bob Barr's now part of the deep state.
Bob Barr, thanks. Welcome, Bob Barr.
Oh no, I don't want Bob Barr. Fuck off.
But again, you got to also be careful on, if you notice, who is Trump pushing out of these states? He's pushing people out that even me and Luke don't like, but he's pushing them out because this time around they said no. So watch Kemp be out. He's going to put another guy in. Watch the Secretary of State be out next time around. They're going to start replacing these people. So next time they won't say no. They'll say yes.
The good news is when he goes to push them out in Georgia, that now might be blue, they might get replaced by Democrats.
That is the good news.
Well, this leads us into a brief discussion. This is going to have to wait for another night because we're going to respect some time here, but we're going to go into this briefly about the tiny battle with Mitch, the tiny battle of Mitch McConnell, or Mitch's tiny war.
We'll call it
Turtle Hill. Turtle Hill.
Perfect, because he is a turtle. I love it.
The Battle of Turtle Hill. What do you see this week happening in the continued split based on this reality right here? Because we are seeing people getting ready to do business with the Biden administration who are really on the ground, know what's coming. And you get Ron Johnson and other clown shows who are holding on to hope like it's 1987 prom still happening, and it's not. And so I just want your comments on that. What the fuck do you see happening this week? Because I think this thing's going to go for a while.
So what do we always say? We're always flabbergasted and frustrated at how well the Republicans always get together and stay together and stick together and do exactly what, they stay on point. Whereas the Democrats are always fractured. And how do they manage to do it? They have a fantastic whip in Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is the best parliamentarian there is. He gets his crowd to do exactly what he wants. That's how he's able to control all kinds of things. Even when it comes to helping a guy who's clearly guilty get through an impeachment trial. So he needs to save the Republican brand, or at least take back control of it. And so there will be a battle over this week over who's in charge of this show now, because this guy is on the way out. So are we really going to cede power to a man who won't even be in political office? If that happens, then we have no more leverage. Right now, when politicians or leaders of the Senate make decisions, they barter for things. Hey, if you approve this bill for helping the meals after schools, I'll give you this military base in Colorado or whatever the hell it is. But when you're bartering with a guy who's not even in power, God knows what he can hold you over a barrel for anything, and that's not something you can negotiate with. And you might find yourself in some really precarious situations where it's like, oh my God, if we don't appease the high priest of Donald Trump, he may send us all down the line, and you don't have any control. There is no wizard controlling anything. You're on your own. So the battle this week will be Mitch McConnell doing what he does best and whipping these senators into shape and saying, hey, we need to get a hold of the brand of the Republican Party because Trump is on the way out. We cannot afford to let him leave with the keys to the car.
Is there a chance that Mike Pence saves the day and somehow counts the alternate bullshit votes?
I guess you didn't see the news about 2 hours ago, Marty.
I didn't.
The news is that Mike Pence is planning on doing his chore of getting through January 6th because, as you know, he's the pro temp, whatever the hell it's called.
He's the president of the Senate.
Yes, he's the president of the Senate. And so, therefore, it will be his job to basically announce that these are the figures of the Electoral College, and therefore, Joe Biden is the president-elect and should be administered the oath on January 20th. And at that moment, apparently, and I mean, it's a crazy story, but apparently his plan is to leave the country. So he is leaving the country with mother, and they're going to go, I don't know, to the beach on Morocco. Get that. I mean, he's probably never seen his wife in a bikini before, but, they're going to go out there and they're going to he's probably told himself, I'm going to do my job. and I'm out because when I come back from my holiday, Trump isn't there anymore to tell me off.
Totally.
Holy crap! I did not hear that.
I predicted that a long. I predicted that a long time ago. I said as soon as this Trump administration is over, Pence is going to a foreign country and changing his name because he's going to be like, I wasn't there, I didn't do it, whatever the problem is.
And that's why Mitch McConnell makes his move right there. Is why Mitch McConnell, because as I said at the beginning of the show, Mitch doesn't dunk on people he can't dunk on.
Correct.
He's very calculating.
Yeah. He doesn't go to the rim on him unless he knows he can dunk on him, and he doesn't lose.
Well, I think what we're seeing with Mitch is that the Republican Party is already trying to rebrand itself. I mean, it's like immediately they're trying to do damage control. At the same time, they're trying to appease Trump. But, he congratulated Biden for a strategic reason. And I think it's because they know that they have to seem relevant moving forward. And they can't just look like a bunch of diehard Trump loyalists when Trump has fucking left the building. He's no longer in office. Who is McConnell going to be loyal to if all he said was, I'm loyal to Trump? That guy won't be there anymore.
Look, you're either a true believer Trumper or you're a rhino. You're either a conservative or you're a virtue signaling cuck on the left. You're either the truth that is Trump supporter or you're some sort of phony that is everything else. I mean, that is the dialogue we've gotten for 4 years. And what's crazy is people actually believe it. They don't believe that anyone could have another viewpoint, any other viewpoint besides 100% for whatever nonsense thing Trump says this week. And it's always nonsense.
Yep.
You're either a Trumper or you're a rhino or you're a cock or you're a virtue signaler or you're a soy boy courting women because you're a feminist. They can't comprehend anything but I shotgun Trump words straight into my mouth.
Wow.
Isn't there a Bible verse about serving two masters?
Yeah, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it says you can't do it.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean,
it would split you in half.
You can't serve two masters. You can only serve one. And, when you're trying to make Trump happy and have a Republican Party that doesn't have to, follow this madman's ideas, you get in these sticky situations that Jeff and Tim were just talking about.
So let's final thing for tonight. There's more to talk about, but we're going to shut this thing down for tonight. This is a personal question, and we were going to write a song, and this conversation keeps me away from writing music, which is why I love this. So we'll get to that another time. This is a simple way of twisting the same question we've just been asking. Would you play softball with a Republican and expect them to accept the win or loss? Would you play one-on-one basketball with a conservative these days and expect that they are going to get to the end of the game and say, "No, I won by 30"? I mean, how do you take these folks seriously in things like Little League and high school basketball and things like that? We're gonna see our country kind of go back together, maybe with the vaccine. How's that going to work with the Trump
great question
situation in terms of day-to-day sporting activities? Are they now going to usurp every ump who makes a bad call? I lift that up to the crew.
It's a great question. I would love to have said no 4 years ago, but when you hear a Vietnam vet agree with Trump that McCain wasn't a hero, when you hear Trump supporters defend him for cheating on all three of his wives, even though they're good people, it shakes your foundations that these people can't even say, I disagree with them on McCain or I disagree with them on his infidelities. They can just say something like, well, he's not perfect like any of us, but, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's all about conditions. It's all about second rounds. It's all about, well, that's your opinion. We've all had bad Little League refs, for example, but no one's ever left the game saying, like, I'm going to call the league and get rid of that guy. Like, he's that bad.
I'm seriously asking this question, Jeff.
I think you're 100% right. Unfortunately, I think the world has changed. As much as I hate to reverse it back to the way they act, I think the Trumpers have, especially Trumpers. I mean, I'd like to draw a small difference. Someone who, let's say, a Trump bumper sticker, those people are just in a different world than the rest of us have lived in, and it's kind of surprising.
I would say, I'll try to answer it a little bit differently. I'm hoping that politics will become super boring, like it's supposed to be. And once it becomes super boring, like it's supposed to be, you won't have to talk about politics at all with your friends. It'll just go back to the way it was, because if politics becomes super boring, it's not on the news, and we're just talking about why Obama is wearing a tan suit. And it's I always like to connect Trumpsters to the teabaggers and the Tea Party, because those people were nuts as well, but they disappeared. I mean, there's no Tea Party bumper stickers anymore. I'm not saying Trump will do that, but eventually it's going to have to. Politics will become boring. People will just have to ease out of it and just kind of leave. Now, what I can't answer you, Marty, is if you know that someone is a Trumpster already, and how do you look at them and go, oh, I mean, really?
A little bit multidimensional here, because if it is, you and the other three dads on the baseball team that you normally talk to,
or the ski trip or something,
or on the ski trip,
you just have to don't even broach that subject like religion. Sometimes,
I'm with you, Ace. But it's not a matter of not broaching the subject. It's a matter of them finding out you have a different thought and watching the scales fall off. And watch them go. I mean, this is the interpersonal piece. Oh, fuck you! You must be a liberal cuck, right?
Right.
Which is how it's going to happen in real time over the beer.
Down on people.
But I'm talking more about the fact that it's anti-authoritarianism at all points in all times, and so I'm waiting to. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen where somebody's going to ask, hey, that's a bad call. What are you, a liberal cuck? And that's the flip I'm talking about, where then all of a sudden every one of his calls might be questionable if they brand him as that way. Yeah. That's how this cancer manifests in ways we haven't seen yet. And that's what I'm very scared of.
If they yell that at a game, just yell back. Like Jerry Falwell Jr.?
You got to be fast.
Well, I would say that I'm probably the good news. I'm assuming in the next couple of years, 2 years, there's going to be so much bad information that's going to come out that the Trumpsters are going to have to start hiding.
I think so too.
They're the ones that are going to have to be a little bit quiet and shameful, because you're not going to be able to keep all the stuff quiet. I mean, imagine if in 2 months Trump leaves and Dr. Birx comes out with a book saying, oh, yeah, no, herd immunity was the strategy. They were lying to you guys the whole time.
Right.
They didn't care about how many people died. I told Trump every single time we're going to lose 500,000 people, and he said it's the only way to win. What if that kind of information starts coming out? Or what if we find out that Turkey that we literally gave up bases because Trump got something, or all this stuff is going to start coming out? They're going to have to kind of be quiet, because I think they're going to get overwhelmed by the amount of people that are going to come at them, which brings me into a different thing. Is that's how the Republicans are going to start getting back, because as soon as the ship really starts sinking, this is when all the Ted Cruzes and all these people start jumping off, because they want to run for president. And the best way for them to run for president now is to sink Trump eventually.
Yeah.
They just need the time.
Yeah. They're going to be waiting.
You'll know.
I mean, this is a very good point right here. You know, we've seen it time and time again. It was on Saturday when they had the Trumpsters visiting Washington, D.C., and picking on people that were wearing masks. I mean, politicizing public health. And, you know, it's just the same kind of mob thing that's happened in all kinds of dictatorships. Yeah. You know, if you did anything wrong, what are you, a Jew or a gypsy or a communist or a gay? And it happened this recently in Syria. I mean, you got the Sunni Muslims picking on the Shiite Muslims, and if you do anything out of line, then you just get branded with, you know, whichever group of people that they want to single out. And right now, apparently, you know, as far as the Proud Boys are concerned, if you're wearing a mask, then you are like Marnie says, you must be a liberal cook and all this crap. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And the way to solve it is to have a goddamn leader like John F. Kennedy, someone a man that stands there, or a lady who says, this is what we're doing, this is who we are, we're the United States of America, we're going to take care of this, we've endured everything, we do these things not because they're easy but because they are hard. We have overcome all kinds of challenges. We've gotten men on the moon, and we can win this fight too. Not someone that just slithers around and is like, oh well, it's not important. It wasn't me. I did it. Well, what about what happened? It was I'm a wartime president. This was just sprung on me. You think that presidents come into the job knowing what's coming down the pipeline? You don't have that luxury. You're supposed to be a leader, but if you knew anything about what it means to be a United States president, you would have known that. But we ended up with this guy.
Supposed to be able to be a baller, you're supposed to be the top dog. And I got to say, the reason that we're doing this show, it's called America Heals, and we're digging down. And I'd like to thank all of our guests for being on the show, but I'd also like to thank all the commenters for all your comments. You guys keep us going on this thing too.
Definitely.
And we're going to be back. This can be in some different shapes as we go forward. But this is America Heals, and we're digging down. We're taking a stand. Okay. We're not right on every issue. We're not coordinating every single thing we're doing. We're chopping down some trees together in conversation to try to help bridge the gap and build some long-standing things. And we're leaving these scopes up, and I know that Periscope is changing, but I encourage you to forward these to your fans. I'd ask you to like and subscribe to all this stuff. I just got on YouTube Live tonight, so I'd appreciate that as we move this thing forward. But we're leaving these up because these conversations can sit and people can come to them another time. And, guys, I really want to say thank you for being here tonight. We're leaning into this thing. I know that we're going to have some, different stuff as the holidays go past, and we've got some shows coming up. I've been reaching out to some folks in Texas that I'd like to put a show together about what it's going to look like in the new year as Texas continues to try to be blue. Tim, I know we got some stuff we're talking about doing in Chicago. We want to keep an eye on what's going on in Georgia. And Jeff, I know that you are single-handedly going to turn Kansas into the blue bastion that we hope that it can be.
Totally.
Go, Jeff.
But seriously, guys, I'd like to say thank you and try to be back on Sunday night for anybody who can come on here, and might reach out to some of the folks too and see what we can do. But from our house to yours, from our 3 time zones to yours, rock on. Blessings to you, and thanks for being here. Guys, thanks for being here. Say goodbye.
Grunge music.
Hey, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Rock on. Rock on. And Mr. Cobain, one last word before you head back up to the light in the sky.
Right.
Grunge music should have been called New Wave, but whatever, man.
And on that, we'll
Epic.
see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Epic.